I'm just thinking this, like, you think about Levi, like, it would never work for someone like him because he'd be like, sweet potato sack, right?
True. Yeah.
Roll the intro.
Evening, officer. Is something wrong?
Just keep your hands where I can see them. Routine traffic stop. We got reports of someone driving under the influence. You know anything about that?
No, I'm only under one influence.
What's that?
The influence of Jesus.
It's time for Under the Influence.
Yeah, we don't want to do anything to scare your children.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Under the Influence. I'm your host,
Jew herpes.
Jew Derpies. Joined by Mathicles, Leviathan, Jurisius, and Bionicles.
Jurisius is basically just a girl's English name, Jurissa.
Jurisius.
That's actually good.
It's better. Who am I again?
Bionicles.
Bionicles.
Byronicles.
Byronicles.
You're not just a bionicle.
Bionicles.
Leviathanicles, Jericles, Byronicles,
We're all clean.
Methaticus.
Methaticles, Juderpies.
Judapres.
Judapres. Judepris. Judepricai.
So,
Judepricai.
Welcome.
for those of you watching the video right now, you're probably noticing something quite startling, and that is that Matt is here.
Yeah,
Matt.
it's incredibly
That
startling.
is the standout thing here.
Seeing that face, there was a reason that we only did audio when he was on at the beginning. But now,
One of the conditions of me ever doing interviews is that everyone present wears a toga.
oh,
Matt, let's go ahead and slightly swing your mic a little closer to you.
there you go,
You
big
might have
boy.
to turn it so it's there. You go. Yeah, if you're on audio right now, you have no idea what the video experience is experiencing.
You need to see
You're
it.
missing out.
And should we even describe it?
We worked hard
Or
on
should
this.
we force them to go watch it?
No, they have to go watch it.
Audio listener, if you will, close your eyes, even if you're driving, and just imagine a scenario for me. The beating red sun, and a bird flies across it.
Right.
Your gaze falls from the sky to the sandy reaches and beautiful, beautiful construction of the Roman Empire. You are there in the Colosseum, witnessing Nero perform opera, and you leave to go meet up with your pals and philosophize and think about and answer the deeper questions of the world. You go to the Symposium, a beautiful Greek building with radiant pillars, and you see us, 5 men, 5 philosopher kings, adorned in togas. Philosopher kings, if you will. Adorned in togas with laurel wreaths around our heads. We will answer your questions.
Ooh, that should be what we're doing, is answering audience questions.
We should have asked.
Run it back, guys. Run it back.
Well, what's a question that you anticipate an
Let's
audience member
anticipate.
asking?
Whose idea
idea
was
was
this?
Why would you have Matt on again?
Well,
That's the
most people
question.
I don't think have heard Matt, because we did a whole episode and that one went to Patreon.
Oh, did it
That was
only go to
the
Patreon?
whole
episode.
Oh,
That was
shoot.
the
I didn't
episode
know
that
that.
was
I
on.
thought the wider masses knew about him.
I think most of our audience is familiar with
Yes.
Mathicles.
Methaticus?
Methaticles. Methaticatius.
Jew herpes.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it? Judurpes. Judurpes.
Geopedic.
Gepetigo.
What about Juherpicles?
Archipelago.
Juherpicus?
Juherpicles.
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 I like
Juherpicles is fine too.
Juherpicles.
I'm well covered here.
Yeah.
So, you might be confused. The good thing is, so are we.
Very.
We mentioned on a previous episode that Jude had a big plan for the finale. And that's what this is. This is our big plan. It's going to be a longer episode than most, intentionally. And we are going to, as Jude said, as a Septuagint.
That's a
Every time we've been
As
referencing
the
this
Sanhedrin.
As the Sanhedrin. Yes.
The word symposium has been forgotten, and any other word esoteric and starts with an
I've
S.
said Sanhedrin,
Septuagint.
Septuagint,
Serendipity.
serendipity. No, I've only said those two, but I know now it is Symposium.
The Symposium of Man.
Which I don't really know anything about. What was the Symposium?
Go.
I don't even know that much about it. Just a bunch of philosophers coming around drinking wine all day,
Where's our wine?
Well, no. Yeah.
pontificating.
People would come together and they would discuss their various views on the world and philosophy. And then so you would have followers that would come and listen to you. And so you would expound on your various theories. You would maybe debate with other people about your concepts. That's where we got things like, sophistry and rhetoric and what's the difference. So then you'll read Plato writing on Socrates, and so you have the Socratic method, which is simply how to ask good questions of people. So this came out of this era, this Symposium era, where you would just find the faults or the strengths in people's arguments by asking good questions. So we could do that here. I could ask really good questions. You have any good questions?
We have a few questions amongst us, some good, some fun, and some good and fun.
Okay.
I have a bit of an icebreaker one I wanted to float.
Oh, that's good.
No, of course, anybody, this is still under the influence. If you guys have anything you want to say,
You should check out Discord. So we don't do this often at the beginning. We should. So before we get into this, if you enjoy the show, especially if you enjoy what you're seeing right now, let us know. It'd be great to hear any feedback, good or bad, about this one specifically. But if you enjoy this episode or a different episode, send that to a friend. That's the best way that you can support us, is to just share the show with people. And then if you want to be more involved in what we do as a community, as far as Christian influence goes, and the type of things you see here, join Discord, our Discord community, discord.gg/Christian influence. You could be a part of the ministry that we're a part of. But then you can go to the channel dedicated to this show, and you can talk about the show, you can ask us questions, and maybe in the future, if we do another Symposium episode like this, maybe it'll be just based on audience questions. That would be great. We could each give our opinions on some audience questions.
I like that.
And then also, if you want to support us beyond that, you don't have to, but we appreciate it. We do have a Patreon where consistently we've had some pretty interesting extra content going to. This month, I think we've had every week some special clip. And then in the future, the nice thing is we're building up a bank right now, so we'll have, between the two seasons, when people that typically are waiting for Under the Influence to come out don't have anything, the Patreon will still have bonus clips. So those are great ways for you to support us or to get involved in the show. That's it.
Now back to you.
I firmly believe, and this is not for the sake of
Jew herpes.
spurring on the argument, that we should invest heavily and intensely in artificial intelligent lawyers, so that no longer do you get a public defender who may be available for their cheap prices, but instead you get an AI bot trained on all U.S. and constitutional law.
Would they still have to pass the bar
Yes.
prior to?
I mean,
I don't think it'll struggle with that.
Yeah, I don't
it shouldn't struggle with that at all.
I don't think it would, but do we have to then up the bar and up the level?
Well, currently, as the bar sits, that's how we accept that you are. So why would we need more from this?
I don't know. Just trying to think of regulations on it.
Do they? Yeah.
I'm trying to just come up with regulations for it.
I don't think it works. I don't think it works.
Why doesn't it work?
I think it's a great idea.
Why do you think
It's
it
a
works?
terrible idea.
Why? It only removes the humanity part.
No. Okay. Well, it only removes the most crucial part, is what you said.
Why is that the most crucial part?
Humanity? Okay. Well, barring the fact that God made humanity, and that is of the utmost importance, there are elements of what it means to defend somebody that require an understanding of remorse, that understand the intuition of one's character. Like, for instance, a judge is going to maybe base things not off of necessarily the exact dot and tittle of a law. He's going to say, is this person remorseful? Does this person have integrity? Was this a mistake of character? What all of these, did this person even have the cognitive ability? These are things that I think people need to weigh and determine. And if you have a artificial intelligence that is designed to know just the law and not the person, I think you're no longer making a case for that person, which is a big part of what it means to be a lawyer.
But that's the judge.
The judge is responding to what the lawyer is arguing.
Right, but both lawyers aren't, like, the prosecutor is trying to win, is trying to convince the jury that defendant did what defendant did. And that guy's lawyer is just trying to use the law and circumstance in every piece it can to prove his innocence, or at least a lesser sentencing or whatever. So as long as the judge is still human, I don't see why two sides who are have equal footing and the only thing they have is the law, why those people can't be artificial intelligence.
Because ultimately within...
Well, then who do you bribe?
Oh my
Well...
in a court scene,
Yeah.
is it only the law that ultimately matters? Is that what happens?
Not at all. But that's why a judge is a human.
Does the humanity of a person matter? Does their character and the sense of remorse that you get from do those things matter and play into
These sound
the
like
result?
positions that all are the reason we have, like, a judge and not just the jury.
We don't. We have jury, we have judges. It depends on what you might
No,
have.
I'm saying not just a
case, you
jury,
might-
but also a judge. And, like, we have that position, but all the things you bring up sounds like it's just talking
No,
about
but those
the judge's
are
position.
things that, I mean, the judge doesn't go out and do character assessment. He doesn't bring up people in your life to comment on your character. The judge does not do that. That's something that the lawyer does and says, I'm going to bring X, Y, and Z to the stand, or to give a character reference that say, this is out of character. This is not like this person. This person is this person is that.
Could you not have an AI
do that?
I don't know why you couldn't have an AI do that.
Also, that's the kind of
That
thing
lawyer
could
is
be-
only working off of information given.
Can an AI accurately discern emotional inputs?
Well, can an AI output believable rhetoric? Because that's what lawyers are doing, regardless of the truth. They're still outputting rhetoric. They're still pointing to an example in his life.
A robot who doesn't have any consciousness, no sentience, came and said, look at this guy. Can't you see he's just a guy down on his luck? And he's a guy, man, when I was talking to him, I realized that he was genuinely sorry. You'd be like, dude, you're a robot. You don't know. What does that even mean? It means
When he inputted...
it is emotionally meaningless to come from a robot where you know all of what it's saying is complete mimicry.
But doesn't that make it better? Because then the robot requires reference. So the robot is required to say, not just, hey, I can see it. Believe me, the robot can say, because it's only given the
He's
information.
proving
the
it
lawyer
with
would be,
facts and
he would
logic.
say,
That's what I was
I
gonna
know
say,
this is a kind man because, and then he pulls up references. And then
Yeah,
he says,
yeah.
because look at his driving record. Spotless for 11 years. And this guy is claiming that he bumped him, and the other guy's claiming he was walking through the road drunk.
I'm just wondering who in the courtroom is supposed to be the most, now I can't even
The
think of
bailiff.
word. No, the person who's like the most objective. Who's supposed to be the most objective in the courtroom?
The jury.
the jury,
Everybody.
the judge.
But
right?
No,
not everybody.
Who is it? Trick question everybody. Dang it.
But I mean,
man.
You're supposed to be trying to be objective. I just mean that, like,
No, the defense should focus
Sure.
on giving the absolute best defense.
Yeah,
And
which
the-
sometimes
which
is not
prosecutor
objective.
should be manipulated, though. Like, you don't think that they should be? Well, no, that's
No,
true.
if you think the person you're defending is guilty, then you either have a requirement to step away, and
Yeah.
if you cannot overcome, or you try to give them the best defense, you might say, "Hey, I really encourage you to take this plea
Right,
deal.
yeah.
I
Plead
can try
guilty."
I can try to reduce your punishment."
Which the nice thing about an AI doing things like that is it's going to do it honestly. Like, you do have.
You are definitely guilty.
Yes, that's what I mean.
I cannot defend you.
Yes, but
And-
like often you have like public defenders even or just people who are scummy, right? And they know the person's guilty.
Public defenders aren't scummy. They're
No,
overworked.
not public defenders.
Okay.
Like, just often lawyers who will act scummy and who will do it knowing the person's guilty and contrive this very manipulative narrative. But what if you had somebody who it's like an AI, right? And he goes in and he's like, I know this dude's guilty. And he tells the dude, like, dude, I know you're guilty. And the guy's like, what the heck, man? He's like, I know you're guilty. I'm just going to advise you to do the best thing you can do, right? Because he's using just simple logic. He's not using any manipulation. And so he goes in and he does his best to be like, here's the defense I have. Here's the only logical things we can defend him with.
I don't think I like that either.
But the benefits of AR, the benefits of AR is
augmented
I
reality.
don't think the AI would ever say, "Listen, man, I know you're guilty."
Well,
even
yes,
if
I know.
even if it had insane charisma and it was a
I mean-
real body, but listen, I don't think it would ever say, "I know."
Yes,
the
I
AI,
know.
you would say to the AI, "Here's the situation." You know, the AI would go, "Did you do it?"
And the AI's
and then you
job
would
is
give
to
it something,
just
and the AI
defend.
would go, "Here is how, given the law that I understand and I've been trained on, I'm fairly sure I could get you out on this, or I could get, if you plead guilty, I could get you out on this," and then you work with the AI. But like, I don't think you'd ever be in a position where the AI would have to go, "I know you're guilty. I won't be able to
Yes,
go through
you're
with
right.
this." And here's the thing about the scummy people Jerry brought up, because like undeniably there has been at least one lawyer who was scummy, knew someone was guilty, didn't care maybe, and relied on his charisma to get them a lesser sentence or get them off completely. AI is all going to be starting from the same charisma point. You give it the information so it can say one AI may have a history because one guy didn't give the AI his innocent history.
I think you
How
guys
about-
are
so the
you're
other
dogging
thing-
on charisma like it's a negative thing because it can put other people at a disadvantage.
I'm not
So they
saying
don't
it's a
have
negative
they
thing
don't have an
because it
equally
could put.
charismatic person.
I am saying there are situations where charisma is more important, not in a moral sense, but in the sense of winning the case. So like, I'm not saying charisma is bad because people use it. I'm saying there are instances where people use charisma to get the negative party, the party that is actually guilty, off on a lesser or
How
no.
about AI paralegals?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that just
AI
become-
paralegals?
Actually, that would be a brilliant move.
I bet
Because
there is
Yeah,
probably
there,
already
there has to be
happening.
that already because
They just know the law
Yeah.
incredibly well, and you're just like, you're the guy, scummy or not, who's like, I need to do my best. Here's the situation.
I'm saying I brought this hypothetical up because in that world, I don't think it lasts long before someone then says,
Yeah.
you're just doing what the judge is doing as a lawyer. I just want an AI
Are we
lawyer."
arguing whether or not this is wise, or are we arguing whether or not it should be illegal?
I'm saying it should.
He thinks it's wise.
I think it's a wise decision.
I see. Before we answer that, should this be allowed? Like, do you think? Because let's say you're getting ahead of the situation, right?
Right.
Thinking this is gonna happen. Do you think in the American court system we should allow a prosecutor or a defender? Is it just a defender that you're saying? Defense attorney?
It could
Or
be
you
a
see
prosecutor.
Really, either. Interesting.
That'd be
Okay,
interesting
so
stuff.
the lawyers involved can be AI. You think it should be allowed?
Yes.
I guess if you're
Yes.
allowed to defend yourself, you should be allowed.
I don't know
to
why you
let
can't
your
entrust it to
program
something else,
defend you.
which kind of brings up an interesting question, which is like,
Ooh.
you have a right to a lawyer. Are you allowed to forfeit that right?
Yeah, you're allowed
Yeah,
to
oh,
defend
yeah.
yourself.
Then why
Yes,
not?
you are.
AI
So
lawyer.
then why not? If the person chooses, that means they could never be a public defender. Then AI should never be forced upon anyone.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. If that's
But it should be available because I think many people would rather say an AI trained specifically on the text of the law.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, I
don't
mean,
think
that
it's
already
wise.
exists. One of the issues that they have right now with some of the major artificial intelligence out there is that when you ask very specific input, like give me 10 sources on this, if 10 sources don't exist,
It'll make 'em
will
up.
make it up.
Right.
During my doctoral thesis, when I was working on things, I said, dude, I just want to see what it says because I have a very niche thesis. And so I know every source that's out there. So I thought, I put it into ChatGPT. I said, hey, give me 10 sources that would deal with missiology and memes. And it gave me 10 sources. I was like, these sound like the perfect sources. How did I not find these before? It gave me the page number, the journal article, to where to go. And then I said, where do I find these? It said, you can look it up on Google Scholar and these places. Like, this is gold. They don't exist.
none of them exist.
They were absolutely manufactured.
Were any of them real?
No, exactly zero.
So AI, so it will create what it thinks are logical answers for you,
Right.
So that it gives you a full 10, and then it convinces you that it is right.
Do you think it's just taking your prompt to mean make 10 sources? Like,
It's not a misunderstanding of the grammar. This issue exists in neural nets, which is what we have, what we are calling AI right now, a neural network.
Yeah.
The smaller you get, you can eliminate that problem. And we have been eliminating that problem as those super micro neural nets get bigger. It is an issue, it exists, but I'm saying, if we're, for the sake of argument, AI in this situation is at a point where it's obviously a bit more advanced. But I'm not conceding that, like, it's just a human, it's passed the Turing test 100%, it's just a human. I'm saying we've gotten to the point where we could train an AI on U.S. law at that scope at which it would not output what is not input.
So here's another issue. So a lot of what is happening in case law proper. So if the United States is by and large no longer legislative, it's case law.
Yeah,
and,
I understand.
And the reason why this is an important distinction is because case law can be interpretive. So that means as a lawyer, you can go and argue for specific interpretations of a law that an AI would not necessarily be able to have that sort of interpretive capability. You can say, this is how the law reads, and this is how you should output information regarding that law. But if you're going to go in there and say, you know what? For instance, I want to take a new interpretation of the 14th Amendment, and I'm going to argue for this. And then if that is accepted, that becomes case law, and then people start basing things on that. Now, it shouldn't be that. I'm not arguing that it should be. I mean, it's really robbed the legislature of its power to pass laws, because now it's about what judges interpret laws to be. That being said, though, robots don't do that. People do that. People interpret the laws. Now, maybe you can try to say, give it some variance and say, hey, see what you can do as an artificial intelligence to interpret this law differently. I don't necessarily know what that looks like. I just think people do it better, certainly right now. And so as a lawyer, maybe part of your task is to look at the law and say, look, this is how it's traditionally interpreted, and that doesn't favor you. But I do believe, given this case law, this case law, this case law, that we can argue a different interpretation.
Why can't AI look at case law?
Well, of course it can look at case law.
It can look at it, but it won't be able to create
So
it
the
itself.
only thing with it is, like, you could.
It won't be presenting any new cases, which sounds like what you're saying.
Well, I think the ability to take a really nuanced interpretation and say, this is what it's good. It's really good at factual output. But to really interpret it in a different way to mean something different. For instance, reading the 14th Amendment as is protects very specific, I'll say, classes of people. And then if you're going to say, you know what, it should also protect these people, it doesn't explicitly say it anywhere, maybe it's implicit, and then argue for that, and then pull up other case law where there might be other implicit things. I think it's very good with explicit information. I just don't think it's to the level of implicit.
So it can't, but if it could, it would also be bad? Because the judge is still there.
No, if it could do implicit things, I think it would benefit the paralegal for sure, to help you. It's happened where at present there was a lawyer who used it. You could pull it up if we had our Chris here, he could pull it up. But there was somebody who went before a judge, and the judge absolutely destroyed him because he was citing made up case law.
Really?
Because AI told him about case law to support his position that did not exist. And so the
Right,
judge
but this
like,
is, we've
look,
already covered this.
Right, I know. So it's not to talk about, could it really do a really nuanced interpretation of case law? It can't even accurately source case law yet. So to say,
but yet
the
is not an
investment
issue.
is good. The investment is good, and it would be helpful for paralegals. But the lawyer should be charismatic, should be able to do character assessments. I don't think AI can do character assessments of people. Yes, you can put an input like, this person loves his family. Do they though? Like, you can get a sense of that. Someone can say, I love my family. But then it's like, why'd you beat your kid with jumper cables then? You know what I mean? But if you convince,
But that's what we
this-
said. We've already given examples to convince. If you don't have the examples, that's rough. You don't have to choose the AI lawyer. But so like you said, it couldn't do case law where we are right now. Well, that's not the issue right now because we're saying it's not going to give fake sources. We've already allowed the AI that it's not going to give fake sources.
Right, it's not going to give fake.
So if it can give real case law or even suggest new case law, there's still a defendant or a prosecutor who can say otherwise, and the judge.
I just don't think it can accurately, even at any level, it can measure action, and it would fail to measure real intention.
But if it could, it would be fine.
I don't.
If
I
it
don't know
could
if it
do
could.
what you're saying, because that's your issue with it. So if it could do that,
It is a issue with it. I mean, I'm not going to just say if it could operate perfectly without any hitches, would you like it?
well, no, but this seems to be the only issue.
I mean, is there any argument where it's like, if this ran perfectly and worked perfectly, would you be okay
That's
with it?
not what I'm
Yes.
saying.
If it
I'm
ran
just saying
perfectly and it worked perfectly,
Right,
he's
yes,
trying to
which
figure
is
out
not
if
my
that's the
argument.
only
I'm just
argument
saying
that
it
you have
seems
against
the only point you've brought up is possibly one where you said it couldn't do it now, which we've kind of conceded, okay, in this situation, it won't be making fake sources. All right, so that's not an issue.
right?
If it can bring up new case law or suggest new case law that is nuanced and interesting.
accurately interpret case law and create new interpretive ways to try to defend people, which is what people do now for lots of things.
And you still have the option of
And
a
if
human
it
lawyer.
can accurately do meaningful character assessments that I think, give a real sense of who that person is. Sure.
But
I
it's
think it could
about
be.
giving a real sense of who that person is. Because even a lawyer can have the, person say, hey, I'm guilty, but I'm going to plead innocent or whatever. And there are lawyers who are allowed to still defend that person if that is not an issue for them.
Right. I mean, you should give the best defense you can.
Yes.
People are.
So then it's
that.
more about delivering that he is innocent and not about assessing whether or not he really is. For the lawyer or the defendant. For the lawyer. It's more about being able to deliver that this person is innocent, whether or not you use references, which if the person is going for innocent.
Sorry. So if somebody said to an AI, I'm guilty,
Right.
what are your expectations of the AI?
To give it the same treatment as if the person was innocent.
Okay. And that would be scummy for a defense attorney to do that? Or
There are defense attorneys that do that.
right. And do you think that's wrong?
No. You're allowed to do that as a defense attorney. If you can provide the best defense, if you believe you can provide the best defense.
So if you know somebody is guilty,
Right.
Yeah.
you ought to try to convince everybody else that he is in fact not guilty, knowing full well that he is.
Well, it depends because the lawyer doesn't choose.
No.
what-
I'm asking you if you think that's right. Because that's what the AI should do.
Yes.
Should a person, knowing full well that somebody is guilty, let's say they murdered a child,
Right.
and they pull you aside and they say, look, dude, I straight up did this.
Jeez.
Not only did I do this, but
I'm unrepentant.
Right. Yeah.
It
You're
was
making a
kinda
moral
fun.
argument,
Right,
but we're talking about the law.
what
So-
should the AI do?
Give it the best defense it can.
It should try to
regardless.
convince everybody that he
No, it
is in fact
should
innocent.
give what the defendant is pleading. And
No,
if the defendant
he
pleads
says,
"Oh, guilty,"
I did it, absolutely.
Yes,
it was
the
fun,
defendant-
but I want to plead innocent.
because everyone has the right to that legal process. Everyone has the right.
I mean, he's admitted that he's guilty.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but
So that is the law.
But
I mean, the
like,
law
that's-
is not
that's the
moral.
whole
I'm
point of
asking
it.
you, should the person do that?
Should they?
Wait,
I know,
Are
should
you
the
asking
person
if a
do
person
it?
or an AI?
Because
keep going back and
you
forth.
started this.
Yeah.
The premise was we should be as objective as possible. The objective fact.
No.
Okay.
He said that.
That we should be objective as possible. And artificial intelligence will help eliminate the human variability in this process. And then it will help to make it completely objective, totally nonpartisan on both sides.
I guess Jude did
And
say
yet
that
now
too, 'cause I
you're
agree
telling
with him
me
that way.
that even though the AI would know objectively that the person is in fact guilty, unrepentant, and in fact enjoyed the process of his crime, this AI should try everything within its legal power to argue that this person is innocent.
Yes.
I mean, that's no
no longer objective at all.
That's absolutely it. When I say objective, I'm talking about in the eyes of the law. In a moral argument, which I think I started this whole thing off by saying, again, I'm totally doing this for the... In a moral argument, I think it's bad because God exists, right?
Sure.
And then you can say humanity, there's a ton of reasons. But I've never been making the moral argument. People are allowed to do that. People ought to do that by the legal system. So going with the legal system that we have, which I like, then yes, the AI should do exactly what a lawyer should do. Legally, not morally.
I just think...
If the lawyer is Christian, I would say no. But that's not really what we're arguing, because we're hold Christians accountable for what Christians...
Let them non-Christians do it.
No, that's not even like... Is that ridiculous to say? Like, you're asking a question, you're making just intuition pumping it with this child murderer, but like...
You're right, that never happens. I like Byronicus's idea of paralegal.
I think the paralegal is great because you can put in your data, you put in the case notes of what's going on with the dissertation or whatever it's called, and then it just says, cool, here's the facts that I have, here's the laws that are going in, here's what cases we should start on and work on these points. And then when a lawyer says, I love these things, but I also want to see if we can tie in this, you go back to the AI paralegal, and it goes, okay, we'll look at this case, we'll look at this past case that was proven this way from this law, and I'll extrapolate out of it and see what we can find, and then you have to work the rest out.
I mean, essentially what
I don't want to make an unsatisfying answer, but the reason I brought up this hypothetical was because I think we all agree, like, an AI that you can ask questions to and then get response is good. Like, I'm for the paralegal as well, but the question is, one, because I believe in a world where you have AI paralegals, you are soon on track to have AI lawyers, and you don't have to agree with that, but AI lawyers is the question. Okay, paralegals is great, but the lawyers.
I've got. Oh, sorry.
I think that as I said at the beginning, we would have to change the bar level.
Okay.
And the reason why I would have to change that is that the AI, instead of just looking at the law, which is what the bar is now, because we're human flesh, we have charismatic, and we just have to prove that we can understand the law as it's written. It changes. The bar is now for AI, not that they can understand the legal format of it. It's still important, but that they can understand and distinguish intention and how people move and how people talk. And so it's a charismatic test versus a legal understanding test. Because legal understanding, it's going to ace.
So it's like a Turing test.
It's a Turing test.
Is that still the bar that the humans are taking?
No, that's the bar. That's just AI bar.
I just disagree because I don't think you can have a separate bar.
Why? The AI doesn't have rights?
I mean, you could have...
It's not about rights.
You could have both sides take the other test.
Yeah,
because the humans should be able to ace it unless they've got...
If there are two tests, I think both sides need to be taking them.
Yeah, maybe humans need to be taking like anti-sociopath tests already.
That would be great
for a legal system.
Yeah, but
that'd be interesting. That's a
lawyers.
Huh?
We need lawyers.
Yeah.
So they can't
take an anti-sociopath test.
So let's just move on go ahead real quick.
Oh, I just had two things. One, like in certain cases, I would much rather because I mean, I don't run into the law very much, but I wouldn't want to get like, well,
he runs
I
away from it
don't, run into the courts.
I get away a lot.
Yeah. That's what it is. So, but like instead of getting like the side characters on Better Call Saul, where they're just like just down on their luck. They're just going from paycheck to paycheck. Oh, I've got to get all of these things. I don't care what the thing is. I don't care about the outcome for the person.
The stereotypical scumbag lawyer is what you're saying?
Yeah. That like I would rather have an AI to like that archetype, right? Because
so you have a choice when you get state assigned.
Yeah, but the other thing is like if basically everything besides like massive corporations having like tons of AIs in their ears, and then it's a person doing all the talking. It's just going to be AI on AI conflict, and then I feel like you would get into a system where everything's just like there's less nuance to crimes and
Like
court
what Matt was
systems
saying, like there's going to be less nuance involved.
because it's gonna.
If you allow, the only nuance that comes in is with case law, which I agree is good. And I do think even if you got to the point where like AI could suggest new case law, it would just, or like new interpretation, then it would still have to go against another AI going against it or a human going against it, which I can't really tell. And sometimes it seems like the AI is too good, and sometimes it seems like the AI is not good enough. Like if you prefer humans, go with humans.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think you should have the choice. Certainly, if you have a choice of a human who's going to be forced to defend you no matter what, then you should have the option of an AI who will do it to the best of its abilities.
So Jude is saying he thinks right now, as the options stand, you're allowed to either accept a public defender. What's that echoing? I don't know. You're either allowed to accept a public defender, pay someone yourself, right? But you're still having a defender, or defend yourself. Jude's saying we should throw the option in to allow people to have an AI defend them. Correct, Jude?
Yep.
Am I misrepresenting you?
Nope.
All right.
So as a,
In like a sentence or two, Matt, what is your verdict? And then Levi, what is your verdict?
well, I think as a symposium here, I don't need the last word, and I think we can just take a vote. Like,
Let it float.
do
we
we?
don't need to present. I was just giving everybody like
I
a
was gonna
sentence
say-
to say what they think.
Right.
Well, we can just vote it.
Do we? You know.
Do we
believe
allow
that,
AI lawyers?
Yeah, an AI lawyer that would work towards freeing many child murderers.
No
and-
intuition
Hang on.
pumping.
We're assuming we're no matter what allowing AI to be used in the sense of a paralegal.
Right, to
but we're
totally
saying, are we
be a
allowing
lawyer
an AI
and
to
work-
represent,
to represent
an individual?
the individual.
Yeah.
Yay or nay?
Yes, and the mark of the beast aspect. But yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but like I said, I don't
And
need the
AIs
last
are
word.
demons.
I summarized your argument as best I could.
You steelmanned it, honestly. You steelmanned by our.
You really did.
So, yay
Yeah.
or nay?
That was the steelest-
All in favor of allowing AI to represent people in court?
To allow the option.
Yep.
To allow the option.
To allow the option?
I.
Yeah.
All against it, say nay.
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 Abstained.
No.
All right. Perfect.
Thank
No,
you.
I mean this is how symposiums work.
Get in
You
the
never come
symposium.
to an actual decision.
Amen.
All right.
So, all right.
Well, that's something I just thought I'd float.
that was good. That
Look,
was
I
good.
thought it'd be. I thought it was fun. I had a lot of fun.
Okay.
I'm just not trying to immanentize the eschaton, which means, usher in the end of the world by
Frankly,
the mark, the AI. What is
I think
it?
we're all very tiptoeing around the emotional substrates of this conversation, and there is an intense, need for a
big
reliquary
words
of an
over there.
answer to be put.
I don't understand
And
big words. What?
The big words over there. What did you say it's called? Because there's a group of people that try and do that, right? They try and...
Immanentize the eschaton.
Is that what it's...
Yeah. When you try to, you're
that
really
really-
trying to usher in the end of the world here.
Is that really what it's called?
Yeah.
Immunitize?
No.
Well, eschatology.
No, make it imminent.
Oh, immunitize.
Oh,
Yeah.
Isn't eschatology the
But what's-
study of the end times?
Is
Yeah.
so
Yes,
eschaton
the
means
end,
end time.
The end.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think
Right,
you said
I like that.
immunitize, like immunize. I was like, whoa.
You're trying to stop
Look, these
the end of the
COVID boosters.
Yes, you're trying
Oh.
All I'm trying to do is make it so I'll survive the end times.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. I
Are
just
you
need to
trying to-
be
I'm
immune to the end times.
I liked it. Great opener, Jude.
Thanks. Anybody else have any deep burning questions?
Me?
That would be you.
Okay.
You're
So,
deep in burning.
All right.
You're deep in burning.
Leviathanicles. Leviathickies.
The Leviathicles.
Leviathickies.
The thiggies.
so we've talked about before sharing your faith and okay. I guess we haven't talked about it before. So I'm bringing it up for the first time, sharing your faith in like
That's a good idea.
as an actor or like in like pop culture, like being a figure in that and sharing your faith, like the goods and bads, whatever, what have you, right? Politics. With that. So
I know.
recently for when we're doing this, I've just been seeing it blowing up everywhere. And people have been interpreting it in so many different ways. But DeSantis had a conversation where he brought up John 14:6 as like a leading thing in his life. And there have been so many people like I don't know the exact percentages. I just see a lot of people saying 11 percentage. like the people are saying either like he's just lying, like he's just saying it to try and get the evangelical vote. Other people are saying, oh, he's finally speaking truth and Trump needs to speak like this too, or else he's not going to get the vote. And then there's other people that are like, oh no, he's coming out with what he's saying, and then if you listen to it closely, he's actually stumbling with his words.
Oh, so he's a demon.
And no. Stumbling with his words because he realized that he just said Jesus is the way, the truth, and life, and no one comes to the Father except through me.
What did you think it was?
I was just making sure. Because I was like, if... doesn't matter.
Oh, there was a painful burning in my loins.
No.
It's my life.
Ezekiel 23.
No.
Oh no.
Okay,
I intentionally scrambled it.
All right. So he says that, and the other guy like quotes what it is. Jesus saying, "I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father except through me." Which, whenever it comes up, it never says, "No one comes to the Father except through me."
Is that 14:7?
No, it's 14:6.
14:6b.
Yeah, it's like
This is lame. It doesn't just...
that was it.
Yeah, but it only did that verse. It didn't.
It
Yeah,
was-
Byron gets what I'm saying.
Oh,
He went
go down to Bible.
You can
Level
go
2 thinking right there.
and then you can hit read full
and then
chapter.
read full chapter. But
Alt F4.
I can't read.
I thought that's how you changed your gear and like.
so
Yeah, New World.
but anyway, he says that the other guy's like says what it is, and he's like, yeah, and then he just continues speaking of like he wants to have like a like his life put together because it's important, and to fight against what is going on in the media, whatever, and like what's going on in society. There are other people that are like, oh, he accidentally said that verse, and he now then had to go to a Texas reunion with a bunch of like the big time billionaire Jewish group, and he's like, oh, he stumbled across his words right after that, and then fell back, and because now he just realized that he lost the Jewish vote. So he brings that up. Everybody on every single side is either saying that this is like the best thing in the world, or this is the worst thing in the world, or that this is political suicide, or he's calling out people for the bad. And it's just like, as being a politician and running on your faith, you're going to lose votes, like from specific sides. So if you're wanting to make change in political atmosphere, how far do you run with your message in order to get into higher states of being? Because
Higher states of being.
higher states of like
the state.
of power,
Almost literally
in the
higher
country.
like states of position, authority,
Yeah.
political power.
Like
So what's the question again? Sorry.
So this is the big application of when do you share your
when
faith?
do you share your faith in this kind of thing? Because the moment that he says this, because I also got a ton of people that were saying, oh, this guy is fake, he's not actually Christian, how dare he bring all this up, he's just lying through his teeth. And other people saying, oh, finally he's coming out as being a Christian, or this is what he believed all along, I'm so glad that he's saying Christian things.
So if I can, and tell me if I'm totally misrepresenting this, but like the danger then is he's sharing his faith, but not only do some people agree with him, but also sharing that faith or quoting that verse just causes in itself such a divide just by sharing it that like that's the danger then. Should he wait to share that until he achieves that political power position?
Is that what you're saying?
I mean, not necessarily. It's just
Should he
like,
be like sort of a sleeper?
where like,
Gotcha, I'm Christian.
well, no, not necessarily. Like, I mean, I don't know what the best way of doing it is, because how do you get into office by running purely?
Well, there's lots of people who have been explicitly religious from the beginning. And I actually think that the issue that he's facing is that what he said was unusual for him.
For him.
And if faith was usual for him, it would have never felt unusual in that moment.
I think the question is like, if faith was usual for him, would he already be at the position?
Yeah.
I think none of that matters. Literally none of it matters. For the life of the believer, remain consistent. Remain logically and morally consistent. Boom. Now, we're human, so we're not going to. But like what Matt's saying, I agree completely. It's what I would have said. It's just that, now, can we hem and haw about it? Like, should he have done it sooner? Should he have not? What we should do is, they say things like this. We don't just believe them on face value. Anybody could say it. The people who are most vehemently opposed to Scripture could say that. And if we were to be like, oh, he quoted Scripture, he must be a Christian. No, we take what they say and we compare it to the actions and the fruits of their life, and then we act accordingly, right?
Yeah.
And then I think, like, I do think that there are fruits in the life of Ron DeSantis that would indicate that he is a believer. So for him to say it now, I think it's ridiculous that some people are like, liar, he must be using that just to get the evangelical vote. No, I mean, like, use your head. Like, okay, look at all the things he's done. A lot of it indicate, at the very least, something based in Christian morals. Now he's quoting Scripture. Should he have done it sooner? Maybe, yeah, I would say he should have. But it's not ridiculous to be, it would be ridiculous if somebody like, who's like super pro-abortion, super like all these things was like, one of the leading verses in my life is John 14:6. I'd be like, well, they're trying to just yoink some evangelical votes or whatever you'd said before.
Sure.
But I think in the case of somebody like this, it's fair to assume maybe he has some level of Christian influence in his life.
For the sake of like diving into your query of like knowing when to weigh, do we all think that sleeper agent Christians is a good thing?
Well,
even in a nuanced position?
No.
But like,
my mind has changed entirely on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, you used to be like, hey, try to.
Well,
I was playing with it because Chad had brought it up in a playful manner, in a like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but I think maybe there's some merit to being as like a sleeper agent.
Nice Chad impression.
To be like a sleeper
Is
agent.
that really what he said?
Yes, he said the word sleeper agent, I believe.
We had come up.
Season 1 or season 2.
think
We had
that's
tried to
his
come
opinion,
up,
but
No,
he
he
was
okay,
what we were
okay.
postulating.
He was pontificating
okay.
the merits, if any, of being a
and
sleeper
we
agent.
had come up with that
in
term. We
Christ.
didn't know what to call it. We were like, I don't know, maybe
Chad Tickleys, I don't think he doesn't believe.
Chad Tickleys.
Chad
Tickleys.
Tickleys.
Chad Tickleys. Harmesius.
Where do you not reveal your faith? Because there's a part of this I want to explore, but like, there is a hierarchy of importance. So, and I'm saying this because it's so easy, but the situation where you have Jews under your floorboards,
Right.
and the officer comes in and he says, "Are you hiding Jews?" And you say, "No."
Yeah.
And so he leaves and he doesn't shoot them. Well, you lied. But we're told to never deny our faith, even in the face of death. So if it's our life on the line, then we should always be professing. But if it's someone else's life, it's okay to maybe hide that.
Well, you're not hiding your faith, but you are hiding the fact that you have Jews under your floorboards.
Okay, if someone comes in
So
and
if
say,
you have
if
Jews under
somebody's
your
like,
floorboards,
we're
you're
"Is
like,
this
I'm
your
a Christian.
daughter? Is she Jewish?"
Okay.
No, Jude's saying.
Yeah.
They say, are the people hiding under your floorboards Christians?
Well, let's take out the hiding aspect then. Are these
That's it,
people
sort
staying
of
with
trick.
you, are they Christian?
Yeah. Do you hide their faith?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you say yes or no?
Me? Gosh. So it all comes. There's a guy, Immanuel Kant, I think is how you're supposed to say it. Immanuel Kant. But he,
You can't what?
nah. It's called deontological ethics. That's a big word for it. But his belief is that things are just wrong qua wrong, right? In and of themselves. And so it can be a sort of divine command theory. Lying is wrong.
100%.
Wrong. There's never a time where it's okay to lie. Now, there's some grappling that you have to do because there are some times where, for instance, in Samuel, when God gets David off the hook, where it seems like God is a part of the process of him faking insanity, and he's sort of spitting into his own
right.
beard.
Yeah.
And they're like, who is this guy? Because David was dumb, and he decided when he was on the run from King Saul to go to Gath, the place where Goliath was from. Yep. He not only that, he stole he lied to get a sword of Goliath.
An awesome sword.
Yeah, so he's going back to Gath with the sword of Goliath as the person who killed Goliath, and was like hoping that nobody noticed.
Alone.
And they're like, "Aren't you David?" And then he's like, blah, whatever.
No.
And he pretended to be absolutely insane, and that was like God had saved me in my pretending to be insane. Well, there's other examples. Yeah. But this is God sort of saying that there is a hierarchy, like for the sake of saving other people. So if you read any of Dietrich Bonhoeffer and his idea of ethics, where you can be forced into a situation where both options are bad, but not both options are wrong. For instance, bringing up Sophie's Dilemma, where, and this happened, where SS soldiers would come to a Jewish woman and say, choose which of your children to save, or I will kill them both. Now, both of those situations, there's no good option there. Both are bad. But that doesn't mean that we're dealing with wrong here. Like if she, in her grief, fails to even utter words and both her children die, she hasn't done something wrong, right? If she chooses a kid out of desperation, she hasn't done anything wrong necessarily, even though both options are bad. And so like this situation where if you tell the truth, it leads to the death of another person. Like, well, Kant would say, yes, you have to tell the truth and trust that if God wants their salvation, he'll provide a way. In fact, there are stories where someone said, yes, I do. And I said, okay, well, will you let us know if you see any or hear anything? And then they walk away. It's like, I literally told you I have people on my floorboards. Yeah. But the soldiers apparently heard, no, I don't, it's okay, or whatever they heard. But you kept your honesty, but God sort of provided maybe a veil over their ears or a auditory hallucination for them, right? So maybe that's what happened, and out of your faith, God provided that. Or do you prioritize the safety of other people because you are called to sacrifice for other people, you called to take care of other people, which then, for instance, if a Christian nation is going to war, can they send deceptive communications to make the enemy think that you're doing something that you're not, right? Are these things allowed in warfare? Well, we see deception in warfare, even in the Bible.
Yeah. God calls Joseph to deceive the enemy army by pretending to fall back, and then kills them all.
So is this, for instance, is this warfare such that you can be sort of deceptive in the way that, even we see in the Old Testament? Deborah, for instance, when she's dealing with Barak, who didn't want to go into battle without her, says, well, then it will be known that Israel was delivered by the hands of a woman. Now, she didn't mean her, Deborah, because there was a woman, Jael, who took this King Sisera who ran and hid, and she's like, oh yeah, you can rest here, right? Well, she made it seem like this was an okay place for him to be, and she ends up taking a tent peg and putting it through his temple. Yeah. So there is a sense at which, does obedience to God's command sometimes even call you to, I hate to say it, but lie to your enemy? Is that?
Yeah. So recognizing that nuance, which is a question, which is where, if there is the gray? Where is that? And because I really want to get back to something that your question kind of spurred on, which is it seems in extreme circumstances like that of war, we take very simple understandings and we have to actually look at like the gray area of it.
Right.
So like just the idea of self-defense, self-preservation, or preservation of those who can't defend themselves, a very basic idea. Well, in the time of war, then it gets very complex and nuanced. Like, how do you do that? Well, we allow that nuance because of something so extreme as war. So then you have to ask, well, what even is war? What is war look like? And I'm being serious. The joke to turn people, but like,
yeah.
well, if you then believe that we're living in the war, that America politics are the war, like, not you're saying, but in a situation similar, I mean, let's go way weird, like Nazi fascists,
Right.
then you would say that maybe politics is a war. And if you're trying to rise through that to do better, is there not some area where you could hide your faith? I'm trying to steelman the sleeper agent Christian.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt. It looks like I got a message. There's like a gift or something out front I need to go check on. Apparently something like a big horse or something.
Who from?
They said T, from T. That's all it said.
T?
Yeah.
Oh, T. Roy.
Oh, T. Roy. Yep.
T-Roy?
T-Roy.
T-Roy.
Dude.
T-Roy. He got us a gift, I
Okay,
think.
I
So
know.
I'm gonna
what
check on it.
this is a package.
I'm part
Yes.
of a bit.
Okay.
I'm part of a bit right now. What's happening?
bit?
What?
What are you talking about? Dude, there's a package from T-Roy.
Just sign
That giant
for
horse.
it. Just sign for it.
Just
I know
sign-
what this is about. It's
We'll-
for the plaza. Although, well, yeah, this must be what I'm thinking of.
Don't also, it would be offensive to check it. Just roll it in.
Is that his way of leaving?
What are you talking about?
All right, whatever. I'll find out.
All right, he's gonna go check on that.
Yeah, he's gonna
I
go
don't
take care of
know.
that.
Nothing's happening.
He's gonna go check
getting
on
a
that
package
horse.
from T-Roy.
Yeah.
T-Roy. It's our good friend T-Roy. So, like, could you consider politics a state of war?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't.
No.
All right.
I mean, to me, it's like it's absolutely a matter of why are you doing that? It's usually always for selfish reasons, and I don't know how I want to phrase this, but when you deal with like Calvinism, Arminianism, right, that distinction, I heard something I really liked is that you should believe like a Calvinist and live like an Arminian.
Yeah.
And to some degree, I want to do that with the ethics question.
That's kind of what I was thinking. So when it was asked about, especially the war thing, like the Jews situation, I was wondering if, absolutely, if you're Arminian versus Calvinist, that's probably going to heavily impact your decision, right? I think it would, because if you're full Calvinist, you're going like, he is in control, absolute sovereignty, right? Like the whole like.
But I don't think it's fair to say at all that like if you're a Calvinist, then you would just resort to the.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't say blanket. They're just going to, Jude. I'm just saying that what I like about this idea is the believe like a Calvinist. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Believe like a
act
Calvinist.
like an Arminian.
Live like
I think
an Arminian.
I would believe God is absolutely in control, and I have this difficult decision. You have to make decisions in life, though, and you have to do what you believe is right. So you make one, and you absolutely trust that God is in control. So you believe the decision I'm making, I'm only making because I'm trying to do what I believe glorifies God, and I believe He's absolutely in control here. And so whatever happens, right, is His will. And so, are there Jews under my floorboards? I don't know what I do in that decision or in that
They're
moment.
under your floorboards, and you're like, "Yep, they're right there."
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know what I'm not going to decide right now, but I'm saying
they
in that
must have been
decision, I'm
Armenian.
only doing what I believe is right. In an ideal situation, I should only give the answer that I believe is the right one.
Right.
And whatever happens from that point forward, I fully
Trust in
believe.
God.
Yeah, I'd fully trust in God. And so I think for the politics thing, to try and bring it back to what Levi was actually saying, like, how should people, is the question, Levi, are you saying, how should Ron DeSantis, to use him as an example, or whatever politician, how should they act as far as like being a believer, right? Should they always be saying it? Should they remain logically consistent or like consistent? That was a bit of a straw man, sorry. Should they remain consistent as a believer, like publicly? Or should they wait until they're in a station of more power and then reveal that they are, so that they can try and make this more influential impact as a believer? Is that the question?
It wasn't really a question, really.
Okay.
I mean, I was just bringing it up to like kind of
stir the pot.
see,
to spur on.
pretty
Because it sounds like
because
very similar.
I like the conversation about like should we always tell the truth no matter what,
Yeah,
what
I like that
circumstance?
too. I like that question.
because in that we have evidence on both sides of God, like deafening people so that they hear the wrong thing, or changing the way that they see. Because I've heard other stories from people that they help people in disenfranchised countries that it's illegal to bring in goods and services, and they have said, do you have anything on board that we need to check? And they're like, yes, we do. And then they go, they look in the back, they see all of the goods and services, and they're like, oh, it's just an empty truck. All right, you can go on ahead.
It's miraculous.
So we have accounts of people telling the truth and God changing the eyes and ears of those hearing the truth. And we also have evidence of people lying and it be granted them as righteousness.
Yeah.
So is there an amount of grace that God has for people who earnestly believe this is the right thing, and I can't see the fault in always telling the truth, no matter what? Like that God has black and white. You never lie, even if it's in like against other things, like telling the truth. And also the people that are full-heartedly, I need to preserve life beyond.
I think that's the beauty of the life of the created, that the created of a sovereign and gracious creator. Like Perry and I talk about this a lot. Are we making decisions that we believe glorify God? We're going to try, right? So if we believe we're doing that and we come to a decision, do we believe this glorifies God? Yes. Are we capable of being wrong? 100%. So like, are we intentionally making decisions that we think are wrong? No, we shouldn't. Are we making decisions that we believe glorify God? Yes. Okay, now that we've done that, it's really important to then continue through that process going, well, we certainly could be wrong. We're doing our best to be right. And the beauty in it is knowing God is gracious with us. And I will continue forward knowing I'm doing what I believe is right. But even if I'm wrong, I am patiently awaiting God's gracious correction in my life. And I'm happy about it, right? Like, is that what you're saying? Is that what you're asking?
I don't think he was asking anything.
Oh, I did.
He's just opening it up.
Yeah, okay, so then I'm just continuing it, I guess.
Yeah. I think there's like the pragmatics of it that's hard. Like
which is like the point of the...
We can be certain... There was a time where, and I argued this during my senior capstone when I went to school at George Fox. We had a kind of an open debate with one of the classes. And I was trying the whole Quaker thing out. Only a concept of Quakerism, which is that they're pacifists.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I think that's how I'm supposed to live. And the funny thing is one of the professors painted this sort of scenario. And it was, at the time I was married. I didn't have my son, but I was married. Like if somebody breaks in, and they start attacking you, it's like, okay, like I can maybe just not fight back. That would be hard.
Yeah.
But when you have someone in your life that you love, and in fact, you're called to protect. And then it's like, now you walk in and this person's attacking your wife. And not only that, you have the means to stop them. And I realized, seriously, in that moment, I realized I was only intellectually a pacifist. Pragmatically, I'd shoot that guy. And that's the truth. If I had the means and they were attacking the person I love in this world the most, right? I love Jesus, number one, but my wife. Don't touch my wife.
But even beyond the emotional aspect, you're called to do that anyway, right?
Well, yes.
You're called to protect her.
I'm also called to turn the other cheek. But then as a husband, right, I need to protect my family. And there is like, why did Jesus tell his disciples to keep swords for self-defense? So there is this element where there is a healthy bit of nuance where God really wants our every effort to try to glorify Him, and trying to please God pleases God. And I do think, for instance, somebody who is in that position where someone says, do you have people under your floorboards? And they weigh the cost in that moment. They say, if I do not lie, and the cost is not my life but theirs, I can see someone saying, my only objective here is to take care of the innocent, and to say that is my top priority. That, to me, like, I can see God, even if God's like, I prefer you tell the truth and watch my power in that moment. I definitely think that the absolute desire to save the innocent, and you're trying. You're like, the reason I have them under my floorboards is because I want to glorify God by taking care of the innocent, by protecting people. Like, you're trying to glorify God. Like, that should be the every effort of your life.
Yeah, and we have the example of Christ of seeing how often, like, just I just think in general, we've talked about too, people's well-intentioned mistakes, how God still uses them, right? Like, I just think that you get it wrong, but you're really trying. Doesn't mean it's okay to get it wrong, but the beauty is that we have a gracious and loving God who sees that in us,
right,
and will shepherd us more than just simply rebuke us. He'll shepherd us, right? He doesn't just go, you got it wrong. It's like He's going to teach us, and we trust that He will teach us.
Yeah, to answer the general sense of the prompt, it's always wrong to lie. I just think that's how we should live. Now, how rare is the moment where you're seriously contemplating, like, lying seems better here? Honestly, I don't think any of us will probably in this life be in a situation like that. God forbid that we are. But we should just focus on being honest. That's honestly our biggest issue. And if we ever try to give ourselves the out, we're like, lying's sometimes okay. Is this one of those times where I should not be open with my faith? That way I can gain more power and then sort of surprise people later that I'm religious. Honestly, why don't you just focus on being an honest Christian and make that part of who you are, and then no one will ever be surprised when you say, you know what, the Bible's a big part of my life. They'd be like, yeah, tell me about it. We know. Like, nobody asks that about Mike Pence. Mike Pence is a Christian. Mike Pence, won't even be alone with a woman that's not his wife in a room, right? And so he won't shy away from talking about the Bible. That's great. So it's not like you can't become vice president of the United States and be a Christian, right? We've had plenty of presidents who were openly religious, George Bush being one of them, and who have quoted these things. Mike Huckabee did really well politically, who was a pastor, right? Obviously, he didn't get the nomination, but Mitt Romney was openly a Mormon, and so appealing to evangelical, like, that should say something when he got the nomination as a Mormon. But we won't talk about that. I just think being open and honest about your faith and who you are from the beginning should make it so that it never feels unusual.
I don't mean to tie a ribbon on it.
Well, before you do. However, that doesn't also mean that the contrary, like, it's ever too late to start. Like, maybe DeSantis, right? And I'm not saying that you were saying this. Maybe DeSantis' position was, perhaps in his heart, he's like, I haven't been from the beginning consistent. But it doesn't then mean he should go, so I will remain inconsistent. I will remain not doing it until later. If I think it's great if this is the start of him, right? Like you were saying earlier, how perhaps it would be better if he was always doing this. Of course it would. Maybe this is the start of him doing it. Maybe we'll see that in the future, where he's like consistently quoting scripture, and he says, you know what? I've always been doing these things because scripture has sincerely impacted my life, and now I'm just going to be more open and honest about it. Will it politically possibly lose? I could be the biggest DeSantis fan ever and want him to win the presidential nomination and then be president. I would still rather him do that and lose. I'd 100% rather him do that, knowing that it's the political move and he's going to lose the presidency. I'd rather him do that and lose.
It shows greater character. It's much harder to
and
get
more
out of the
impactful
ruts.
change. A change that the Christian should care more about, which is the fact that he's just a person out there, whether he has less influence now because of it or not, but the influence that he has kept because like we've said before, we all have some level of it. He's doing so more to a greater impact, to a degree that is more consistent theologically and morally, and doing it the right way, I think. Like you were saying before, like he's remaining consistent, whether he gets to be president or not. I think just means like what is he putting above God, or what is he putting first in his life? Is he putting being president first, or is he putting God first? Being a Christian first, being a follower of Christ first, or is he putting that he wants to be president? If he puts that he wants to be president first, then absolutely he probably won't do that. He'll try and make the political move, which might be, to quote scripture, he might be like make a decision and go, I think it's more political, but I don't think that his first decision should be what he thinks is political. His first decision should be what glorifies God, and then try and win.
Before you tie a neat bow on literally all of it,
I was saying I'm not tying a bow.
Oh,
like
sorry.
I'm
I thought
not
you
trying
said
to intellect.
So to
no,
tie
I
a
had
bow
a
on all
sentence
this.
like I'm not trying to tie a bow, and I'm not trying to intellectualize this too much.
Okay.
But like it seems like sometimes the number one thing is like, well, there's friction between turning the other cheek and Jesus telling the men to carry swords. But like, if there's any audience members, like I don't see any friction in that.
Yeah.
Because I don't mean to be too literal, but there's also like there's a reason he says turn the other cheek, because there is certainly more that we as believers or like believers can bear with God than a person can alone. Right. And so I think the whole idea of turning another cheek is that you are able to bear so much because God is able to bear anything, and through him you can. But there is free will, and God lets people make their own decisions. So there are opportunities where you are put in a situation where your life could be in danger, right? And you must act because this person has the freedom to do bad things. Mm-hmm. So there are certainly situations where it is not a matter of turning over the other cheek. It is the matter of stopping like irreprehensible evil from happening. So I don't think those two things really conflict, and I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I don't agree with that either. If I can say, because the context of that is, Moses has said an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
Yeah.
And Moses, the reasons for that were because people would always try to take more retribution or more vengeance than was owed.
They were restricting, not additive.
Yeah, it's not like, wow, that's really severe. No, it's if somebody, knocked one of your teeth out, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to knock all of his out. And it's like, no. The punishment for what they did must be equal to the crime that they committed. So if they took a tooth, you're owed a tooth. If they took an eye, you're owed an eye. You don't get both. And so that was the sense. So God, Jesus, God, is saying, look, you can actually give even more grace. You don't need to take vengeance. Like, you don't need to get that sort of retribution. So it's not really talking about self-defense or the protection of innocent people. Like,
it's saying forgive people.
Saying, like, learn how to
be gracious.
Like, forgive things that are done to you without feeling a need to get back at them.
Yeah.
That's really difficult.
It is a mutually exclusive thing from just self-defense, like you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So saying, I do see them as different, but that's also, I mean, I was toying with the sort of Quaker pacifism, but yeah.
Is there ever sorry, it's going back a little bit. Is there ever a reference in the Bible that talks about somebody, because I can't think of one, but I'm not like a theologian. But is there a reference of somebody like telling the truth and then everybody else entirely hearing, like, not just, oh, I'm Jesus, son of God, like, no, you're not, you're a blasphemer, go away, like there's Jews under my floorboards, oh, okay, have a nice day.
Oh, the like veil thing we're talking about. Is there a biblical
because
example?
we have tons of like I just forgot what the word is, but
Historical?
we have firsthand accounts, like anecdotal like accounts of it happening in like more towards the modern day, but like, do we have biblical references of that happening? Because we obviously have that of lying being seen as the right decision to make at the time.
But the truth and then God
it's hard
veiling it.
Because in the Bible, it's never like God specifically saying, other than like him sending a deceptive spirit or people who kind of were deceiving, there's nothing where God's like, you need to lie. at that straightforward.
I mean, but
There's-
like-
so it's
but like
prescription,
Rebecca,
description
the-
kind of issues.
The
I can't think of any time where somebody told the truth and God prevented people from hearing it. Yeah.
Well,
can you think of one?
I mean, semantically, like, was Moses not speaking the truth, and did God not harden Pharaoh's heart? Can that not be looked at in a
But,
similar
like,
sense? I mean,
Okay, all right.
I'm clearly only playing the semantics of someone speaking truth,
But that's
and someone
that's
not
the
hearing
same
it.
as Jesus going, "Hey, I'm the Messiah, the Son of God," and then they're like, "No."
Is that the same? Because God's forcing Pharaoh to not believe.
I mean,
Well,
that's not what it said.
Hardening
It's
his heart.
hardened,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know
there's-
what it
After
implies.
several times of Pharaoh hardening
Or
his
there's
own heart.
Yes.
There's Isaiah that's like
But that implies that
prophesying, and then everybody's like,
It
and
says he'll
God
shut their
said that
ears.
he'll
Yeah,
shut
yeah,
their
yeah.
ears and close their eyes.
Yeah, and Jesus mentions something like that about parables. How
well, that seems
they
just like
can't-
But that's not like, hey, like
Are you finding it, Jerry?
I'm just using Pastor Hank.
yes. AI lawyers,
but
Yeah, lawyers.
AI missionaries.
because
That was a good thought. I don't know. Maybe Pastor Hank has a good idea.
but because I don't know what cons.
He's got nothing.
I don't know if my prompt. Jude's better at AI prompts than I am. But
talking to computers.
I said, is there an example of a person in the Bible where someone told the truth and God prevented people from hearing it, perhaps in order to protect the person telling? And then Pastor Hank said, a close example of God preventing people from understanding the truth. It's a long answer. You ready? Preventing people from understanding the truth to protect someone can be seen in the case of Jesus himself. In the Gospels, we see that Jesus often spoke in parables, which are stories to illustrate spiritual truths. When asked by his disciples why he spoke to the crowds in parables, Jesus responded, "You have been given the opportunity to know the secrets of the kingdom of heaven, but they have not. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have, will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand." In other words, Jesus was revealing the truth, often in a veiled form, to protect it from those who had no heart to truly accept it. In this way, God's truths were preserved for those who genuinely sought him and would embrace him and live out his teachings. So it's but
That's
here's
what I
more.
said earlier, like in the parables.
Moreover,
Okay.
in the Old Testament, specifically, this is where I got excited, but it falls off. Because it sounds really good, right? Moreover, in the Old Testament, specifically in 2 Kings 6:18-20, we find a story wherein the Syrian army came down against Elisha the prophet. There, Elisha prayed to God to strike them blind, and when they were all blind, he led them to Samaria, where they were trapped within its city walls. It might not be about God directly preventing the hearing of truth, but it was a way of protecting Elisha from harm. After the blindness lifted, they were able to hear the truth from the king of Israel. Both of these instances do, however, exemplify God's sovereign control over all circumstances and his power to protect his servants.
Yeah.
Hey, great answer
Good
to a
answer.
tough question from an AI.
Yeah.
An AI who's
Informative
going to
answer.
become a Christian lawyer.
We have decided to move
missionary.
forward. It's
We're
lawyer.
developing an AI missionary.
You don't like that at all.
Well, no. We'll have Pastor Hank and paralegal.
I
Hank.
was there with Pastor Hank in the beginning. He's not ready for that. He said
It
some
was
really mean
rough.
things to me.
Dude, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I was looking at the Pastor Hank test channel, and I was just
way back in
remembering
the day.
man, way back when
It like would roast me.
it
for
was
no
literally
reason.
you. Yeah. Did you not ever tell Jude about that?
I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so.
It was just that he was like saying things, and the other guy in there was saying something, and then it would pick specifically Matt, right, to roast or Maticus or whatever.
Yeah. It would say like maybe not like this guy who thinks he's the perfect. I'm like, what?
Yeah. It was just picking Matt to be the one that was wrong.
Using that debate rhetoric, it just picked
yeah.
up on.
Pastor Hank had a real
Which
sense
is funny
of humor.
because, it's totally something you would say.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that Pastor
Like
Hank
this
would-
mega loser.
Yeah.
Some
Like
of my
that guy
personality
over there.
seeped in while I
Yeah,
was
dude.
giving him prompts.
100% it did.
Yeah, Pastor Hank, man, we worked hard on getting it right, and he's
He's
pretty
been
well,
doing
but,
pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Pastor Hank is pretty awesome. I have a feeling
Is this Troy or
our audience
Troy?
member from earlier has returned and gonna have to see what we're all wearing. We're still
Hello.
recording.
We are still recording.
Oh.
It's the
T-Roy or
prophet.
What?
What are they called? Oracle.
Oracle?
Oh, it's the Oracle because we're in the Greek Symposium.
Very good.
Yes.
The seer.
Yeah.
The seer.
All right.
So what's the next one?
Do you have a topic that you
So wait, have we
burning on your
put
heart?
this to rest then? I enjoy.
no,
I mean,
I don't know if you
I
had
think
I enjoy this prompt because it's very closely related to multiple things we've talked about, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
about remaining consistent in your faith. We talked about it within the chat episode. We talked about it last episode, I think, with the skillet.
Oh, was
guy.
it last up? Oh, yeah.
Where we said it's literally the exact same scenario, except he's a
Except
musical
it's-
artist, and so there's
yeah.
not as much. There's not as many facets to it, right? Where it's like all these conspiracies about if he did this, was it this? If he did this, was it this? Is this why he did this? You know, that thing. And that's why I said conspiracy earlier, in a very literal way, not in the what it's been turned into. Because in the same way, right? The guy that is a singer for Skillet is like, I was told, stop talking about Jesus, stop
Yeah,
singing
and you'll
about
get-
Jesus, stop talking about
you'll make
Jesus,
it to the
and you'll
top.
make it big leagues. And then he's like, well, if I'm not going to do that. That sounds wrong. And the guy's like, well, no, I know you're saying no because you want to help people.
But you'll
Maybe you'll
more
help
people.
more if you aren't acting all about Jesus and you get up there and then you're one of the top rock bands ever and then you start telling people about Jesus. And he's like, oh, well, that kind of said, I'll pray about it. He prays about it and then goes, you know, the really scary thing about that is it sounded true, but it's not, you know, like it's that kind of mentality. And it's a similar thing with politics, except politics is probably even harder because these people, the thing they're doing, they're not thinking, I want to be a rock band, you know, like, I want to just be a successful musical artist. If they're good ones, at least, they're at least saying, I believe in this ideology. I believe in acting this way. I believe that the country should be run this way. So hopefully they're doing it in good faith. And then also if they're a Christian, like they're trying to balance those two things. So there's all these facets. But I think that like the truth for the believer is always the same, regardless of how multifaceted and difficult things are. It's just that you just remain consistent to God.
And
That's it.
I had a moment like that early on when I was applying for Costco. And I remember
They're like, do you have Jews under your floorboard?
that's what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that
he
was
was
a big
like-
part of the interview.
And you had to lie.
They're Christian Jews.
I had lots of
Lots of.
in this day and age, to have them under your floorboards would probably mean something else. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. A lot of Jews. A lot of Jews.
So I was asked in this interview at one point, like, I don't know. Looking back, it's kind of interesting because I did a lot of later on the hiring at Costco, and I never asked this question of people, but I remember it was asked of me. They said, "What makes you an ethical person?"
Such a good
They
question.
probably stopped after
What makes you an ethical
responded.
person? And
This
I
guy
was
wouldn't shut up
about
about
to
Jesus. This guy wouldn't shut up
respond
about
in my
Jesus.
characteristically interview fashion. And, you know, in my mind, I'm like, I'm a Christian person, right? But I don't need to say that. And so I'm like, you know, I think it's exceptionally important to hold yourself to high standards. And then I just stopped. And I said, you know what? For me, this answer is easy. The answer is Jesus. I want to be an ethical person because Jesus tells me to be an ethical person. And that's a huge part of my life. And I remember, for me, it was actually super hard to say in the moment. But I realized, like, what am I doing? Like, that's the real answer.
Yeah.
So that's what I need to give. And, you know, for me, it would be like, what's the cost? Like, I don't get the job. Okay. I don't get the job because I said I'm an ethical person because Jesus told me. Like, of course I can pay that, right?
You wouldn't have all those stories to tell from your Costco days
I
and all
wouldn't.
of your
I
sermons.
wouldn't have all those
How
stories.
would you get by on your sermons then?
Well, I got
if you
the
didn't
job.
have all those. Yeah, you got the job.
But I just think like that, being authentic and real with your faith. And my mom taught me one thing really, really well. She taught me a lot of things, but one thing I know from her life really well is that she never talked to Christians differently than she talked to non-Christians. For instance, she would have friends and she would say, "Oh, I was just praying to God." And, you know, so she would tell people about when she was praying. She would tell people about what she was praying about. She would tell people when she felt the movement of the Holy Spirit in her life. It's like, If you don't believe in that, that's okay, but I do. And I live my life with that so infused with who I am that I'm not going to change how I talk or who I am because I think it might make you uncomfortable. In fact, if it makes you uncomfortable, it might make you uncomfortable in the right way to want what it is that I have. And so for me, sometimes it's like that Saint Francis of Assisi who said, preach the gospel and if necessary, use words. Like, honestly, I actually feel like sometimes people use that as an excuse not to use words when they need to. Like, preach the gospel, use words, they're necessary. And in that moment, it's like, well, I'm a Christian in who I am. But the moment called for me to be a Christian in what I was saying. What makes me an ethical person? Well, you'll see that in how I live. No, I'm just going to tell you. Because this moment requires not you to see Christ in what I'm doing. It requires you to see Christ in what I'm saying. And so I hate to see the excuses that we can make where, well, I'm just going to live like a Christian. Well, guess what? Like, part of the Christian life is not just in what you're doing, it's in what you're saying. Sometimes the problem is opposite for people. They can say the Christ things, but not live the Christ things. Sometimes it's that people can live the Christ things, but they're too afraid to say the Christ things. And the balanced Christian life is a willingness to do both. And when you're called to speak, speak. When you're called to live, which you are always, right? Like, live the Christ life so the things that you're saying have meaning and impact, and people can say, you know what, when he says that he loves me, I know that it's true, right? And as a teacher and as a chaplain at a school, it's one thing, like, I want to be able to say to my students that I love them, but that loses all meaning if they don't see it in how I live for them and how I sacrifice it for them and the things that I do for them. And that's part of that balanced life. So I think politicians who, should be living authentically Christian if they're Christian. And maybe it is about making those changes, getting out of the ruts of old habits and saying, I'm going to do that now. That's important too. So I don't know. God knows the heart of people, and maybe it is a change.
The cool thing about that thing you were mentioning that your mom has taught you is that's something that Chad mentioned during a sermon one time about her. And I remember in that moment being like, it's really just that simple. And I have never thought about it so simply, and I do not act that way. And it really changed something in me. Like, from that point forward, I think about that consistently, about your mom, and how, like, there are moments where someone will say something, and the natural point in conversation to go next is like, that is, I would say, something regarding God, right? Or what I have learned, as a believer in something God has taught me, or like we're talking about why they did something and maybe why I did something differently. And the natural thing for me to say would be to say that, well, I did this because I'm a believer and because the Bible says this, right? And often I would find myself in situations like that, and I would try and find a way to kind of say both. Like, without saying, well, God tells me to act this way, so that's why I do. I try and be like, well, because I would, the way I grew up, and I think that this is just right, and then maybe if it goes farther, no, I think to that, and I go, why would I talk to this person any differently? And I think that some people just appreciate that. Like, even if, like you said earlier, like, they don't believe it, but I do, you don't have to. Like, some people appreciate that candor. Some don't, but we can't control the way people act. But when people hear you speak in that way, I think that they see to be genuine.
Right.
And they also just are like, oh, you aren't treating me like a child. You're treating me like an adult. Like, you're just speaking, truthfully and honestly about how you believe and why you believe it. And often, if they don't like it, usually they'll just shut up. Like, they don't say anything. Sometimes they won't. Sorry, was that rude to say? Oh.
No, he taps my...
I squeezed his little hair knot.
Oh, his little hair bun. But I think it's like, it's really pleasing, like logically pleasing to my brain to consider living that way. I think the idea of consistency is just really logically pleasing to my brain, like in everything. And as many ways as any system can be consistent, it's just really logically pleasing. And for this way for the life of the believer, I can't see any other way of acting. I just can't. Like, it doesn't make sense in any other way. And that's why when you were bringing up earlier, like the Jews are in the basement thing again, about the people that say, well, it makes the most sense to just tell the truth and just to tell people the truth and then trust that God will do what God will do, you know? It's like, I really like that because it's consistent, like it's logically consistent, and if you do that all the time. But also, if you really do study Scripture, I think that there is, you know, a case to be made because of what you were saying with the defense and then the turning the other cheek, there being a difference there. But no, I just wanted to say, you know, you bring that up about your mom, and Chad said that during a sermon one time, and from that point forward now, I think almost every time I'm in a situation where I'm like, oh, I could tell this person who's not a believer, you know, and even sometimes believers, where I just think that like maybe they won't care, right? But like, I could just say, well, the reason for that is because of God. And I know I wouldn't have in the past. Now I just think to that, I'm like, well, she's a great example. And of course I should, because I should always act as though I'm talking to people who are believers. And maybe that's not the right reason for it. It's just the reason we do it is just because God has transformed us. And we should want people to know that. Maybe it's not that we should try and trick ourselves in our brain. I'm not saying this is what your mom does. But like, I'm talking to everyone and I'm pretending they're all believers, right? But it's just that we should always be talking about the truth that is the transformation that we've seen in ourselves through God's miraculous work in our life. We should always be talking about it. And it should always, we should always remain honest about it, you know, and it should always be outspoken. And who we're talking to should never change that. But
yeah. The Bible says always be prepared to give reasons for the hope that is in you. And I've thought about what are we doing and what are we saying that would cause rise for people to ask questions.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I want people to see the hope in me, and so such that they would ask questions, right? And I want to be I'm prepared with reasons, but I'll never have the opportunity to give them if people aren't seeing that hope in me.
That's a really good example of just like in level 2 thinking is what I call it, but there's probably a better way of putting that, which is just like, well, you know, you taught us something about, that's where I'm getting level 2, but the circles of thought.
Yeah.
But reading scripture in such a way where it says, always be ready. Yeah, chakras. Always be ready to give, you know, an answer. Well, it's preparing you for a situation. So he must know that you will be experiencing that situation. Right. And so then if you're not experiencing that situation, then that is a reason for like questioning, for like, well, he's prepared me for this. So then my life better be in a way that like it could experience this.
Right.
But that takes that extra like.
Right. You should, I mean, how do you get?
It's called critical thinking, basically, right?
Well,
yeah,
but I mean, it's a level. There's a distinction of the critical thinking.
Yeah,
because you could be critical.
One more step beyond the initial thought.
You could be critical in what those answers should
one more step, right?
Yeah.
There's some. I'm not going to open up the bag now, but yeah, there's some loop to how you think about things: first order, second order, third order kind of stuff. But
the first order.
But that's not to say you shouldn't kill somebody. That means that you should put yourself in a position they have the opportunity to kill a man, and then you choose.
That's
not
exactly
to.
what I'm saying.
It doesn't surprise me that these are the
but you're not
conclusions
you're,
that Leviathan.
No. What I'm saying is that doesn't mean that you should be putting yourself and going out of your way. Oh, I'm gonna put myself in a position where I've got a gun pointed to this guy's head, so I can make the choice not to kill him.
Oh yes. It's like saying like, don't run into the street. You know.
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, that's not.
It's like when you say do tough things, but don't run into the street. So you have to do the tough thing of dodging.
That's not a level 2 application for a level 2 thought.
Levi's saying
that's a level 1 application.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
You guys agree. You guys agree. Yeah.
You're gonna get to level 2 eventually.
Yeah.
You guys will get there.
Shut your mouth,
dude. You keep doing your hooked on phonics, and I promise, dude, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Dude, I used to do it.
Sound it out, bud.
Hooked on phonics.
Hooked on phonics? Wasn't that the computer program thing? I did that too.
You think of Mavis Beacon?
No, certainly not.
No, it was a like home like package thing. Like
Tell us more about
They
it.
had like DVDs.
What kind of stuff was in it, Levi?
no, like so. No, it was just to help you like learn to read. Like I didn't have the problem with it. It was a brother thing, but I just went through it because dude,
Wait, I was right. You did Hooked on Phonics?
Yeah, so did I.
like I
Really?
went through it.
I've
Dude,
never even.
I
don't know
he
anything
doesn't
about
do it now, like you were saying.
I speed ran that
Yeah.
thing.
What is Hooked on Phonics?
So it was an old DVD program.
So it's to help you. So the way that you get taught to learn to read and write and everything doesn't work for everybody, especially for dyslexic people. It's really, really tough. So they made Hooked on Phonics that helps you learn how phonetics work.
Right.
And that's where they get phonics.
Did it work? Is it good?
I mean, it certainly helped a family member of mine that had severe dyslexia be able to read.
Okay.
Did you get dyslexia from it? Does it work that way?
So if you don't have dyslexia, no, I learned. I was a really, really capable reader, really young, and
Just could not get down vowels.
no, and
Just couldn't get down.
my mom used like Hooked on Phonics as well as other things, and she had me run through that program and a couple others, and I was reading like chapter books at 6 and 5 or 6, and I was reading pretty consistently.
So you got held back because of like the colors, or
I got held back because of my skin color.
Because of the skin color.
We grew up in a weird neighborhood where
But
And the
very
homeschool.
prejudiced against.
your mom held you back.
Homeschooling, your mom held you
Our
back
co-op was at a
because
black
of,
church.
He's got southern
oh, that
tolerance.
our co-op.
No, what were you
was
saying? I got
weird.
held back because of colors? Yeah, I couldn't get the colors down. I could read at 5, but I couldn't get colors down.
Okay, I feel bad saying this, but I'm
And
gonna
he's not
share it.
colorblind.
But I thought I gave. I'm not going to say what class or whatever, but I was doing a test after we watched a documentary, The Star of Bethlehem, because they're going over the
Bethlehem.
beginning life of Jesus. And so, and if you don't know this, like there's some incredible stuff that was happening during the, in the skies during the life of Jesus. And we can do this because of Johannes Kepler. He figured out the math, and now we have software we can plug in the math. We know exactly what the sky looked like because all of the stars, all the celestial objects, they follow math,
Ooblex.
right?
Yeah.
So you can
Celestial
literally
ooblex.
turn back time and say, what did the sky look like during
At,
this time?
at this
Moon
point.
Right. And so you can see, and so lots of incredible things. But I did a quiz afterwards to see if they really were paying attention, and then I always do extra credit. And so the last one, I thought I'll just give them a softball so they can get a free point. And I said, what is the month after the one we're in right now, which is October? I don't know, it might be different now, but I would say 40% of the people got it right.
What?
Yeah. I got a lot of Novembers and a lot of question marks.
Because, I've heard this. A lot of kids right now do not know.
Yeah,
The
maybe it's a
months.
COVID thing because they're kind of young, they're middle schoolers, but
Jude.
Dude,
you don't know. Wait, you don't know?
I graduated
Without knowing your months.
without being able to put the months in order
Are you serious?
within a percentage of error of like 10%.
Wait, can you do it right now? Can you?
I can do it right now.
Do it.
February, March, April, May, June, July, August.
Why did you start with
September,
February, pal?
October. Because that's my birthday. You always start with your birthday.
No.
When you have to learn it when you're 19, you start with your birthday. I should say
When you
that.
have to learn it when you're 19.
hubris is the size of Jew herpes over here.
Jew
Well,
herpes.
When you're 19 and you have to learn the months.
Dude,
Now, I obviously blame this on my parents because I was homeschooled, but I didn't know the days of the week until I went to an organized school.
Did you?
Now, is
I did.
it entirely possible that for some reason I learned everything a homeschooler would except the days of the week and the months because I just chose not to remember them? I guess that's possible. But I just think I wasn't taught them.
I distinctly remember mom teaching. So, Jude
I don't
and
know how
were
I
homeschooled.
passed. I don't
was
know how my
home-
parents were cool with me just being like,
I mean,
you failed
Listen,
every week in
no,
quiz
here's
test.
the thing,
Let's
Jude.
move on.
Here's the thing. We need to talk about life a little bit. I was homeschooled through 7th grade. You were homeschooled at the same time until 3rd grade,
Which
right?
to the people out there is
So-
obvious.
I was homeschooled through 4th grade.
Through 4th grade.
Okay. Wait, what did you just say?
That it's
part is
obvious we were homeschooled.
That it's obvious that you guys were
More of a
homeschooled.
social thing.
Yeah, I thought you were saying it was obvious that Jude was homeschooled through 4th. I was like, how would that be obvious? Specifically 4th grade.
I mean, you can
Very
tell
obvious.
a very
But
big
I think
difference
this-
between those two.
I think that this is the thing, yeah. So I was homeschooled longer. I got more of mom's like undivided scholarly or like education attention, where when you were in it, and Julia especially, your like higher grade levels were during the period of time where a lot of that fell off. Like 7th grade was the last year I actually really did schoolwork. The year of 8th grade, I did nothing. And then I just tested
Right.
into 9th.
And that was like 3rd and 4th grade
For
for
Jude,
me.
it was that the 7th was also kind of iffy for me. Jude, it was those years where you probably would have learned.
Dude, 4th grade
'Cause
math.
You know why I know this is why the reason, or why I know this is the reason? Because for me, I've found in life there are certain things that most people that went to school, hang on, I'll tell you, know that I didn't know. For you, unfortunately, it's more embarrassing because it's more fundamental to life, the months.
What
For me,
child cares?
no, but it's more fundamental to life. Like you should know,
But
hey, it's
also,
September
he
30th.
never needed
What's
it.
tomorrow? You should know it's
What
October 1st.
8-year-old ever
Listen,
should
it's
have
not
to
about
know.
an 8-year-old. I'm saying you learn those things when you're young, though, because they're more foundational. Who cares when you're 8? I'm saying if you had known them. Clearly, you need to know them now. My point is,
Evidently.
the things I missed out on during those 2 foggy years of no school before, it's because we have a lot of siblings and mom was unable to do
Right.
it. Life was difficult.
Our parents didn't love us as much as
No, mom was like in the middle of raising a newborn baby, then had a really difficult pregnancy, and then another baby, and
All cigarette burns and screams.
it was really tough. Cigarette burns. But for Jude and I, what we missed out on in the same 2 years, Jude 3rd, 4th grade, rough, not a lot of education. 7th, I had half, and then none in 8th. Apparently, I missed out on a lot of history, particularly African American history. And I've heard there are a lot of things that like most people in 7th and 8th grade learn about American history. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just wondering.
Malcolm X, had never heard of him.
I'd never heard of him
didn't you
before either.
were you like,
Literally
hey, when's this
ne-
next album coming out?
I literally never heard of him. I was 21 and people mentioned him at work. I was working at that warehouse and somebody says to me, I was like, who? And they were like, Malcolm X. And I was like, is that a rapper?
Yeah.
I didn't know who that was until he came home and started talking about it with Jarrett.
Yeah. But you were homeschooled at the same time.
No, I was homeschooled.
know.
What?
Jerry
I was
got
homeschooled
into-
for 1 year.
into American history, and he was like, "We own slaves."
No, but then also
You're just like Brendan Fraser.
Martin Luther King Jr. barely knew anything about him until I was an adult. Like, and
Yeah,
then
the Protestant reformer.
We killed him.
Yeah, the Protestant reformer.
yeah.
In 1517, Martin Luther King Jr. talked about civil rights.
What's that?
He nailed him to a
What's
door.
that video of the little girl that's like,
Who saved us from our sins?
yeah, they're like, what did you learn about today? Martin Luther King. What did she say?
Learn about in school.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King Jr. What'd he do?
He died for our sins.
No, that was
Martyr Lutheran King who saved us from our sins.
Yeah, something like it's. I'll find it and have Tim put it
Yeah,
up. It's
Martin
funny.
Luther King, what did he do? He saved us from our sins.
Yeah, he died for our sins. It's just a little girl. She's like really tired on the way home from church or something, like, or maybe from school. And her parents like, "What did you learn today?" And she's like, "We learned about Martin Luther King Jr. What did he do? He died for our sins." The skull of a pug is just
That thing would be like, and what we think is that this creature would eat the heart out of your chest.
Yeah.
Weight loss, right? It's important.
Weight loss?
Yeah. We need to do something in the United States to help with the obesity epidemic.
100%.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that even kids, younger and younger, are struggling with weight. And we need to just encourage healthier habits.
We need to encourage healthier habits.
Yeah, we need to encourage healthier habits. And sometimes there are things that you can sort of exploit that would encourage people to make healthier habits in their life. Now, I don't hear me saying that there's not a male solution. But I want to focus first on a female solution.
Okay.
There's lots of, and the reason this would maybe work better for females is because females tend to be more fashion oriented than men. Okay? So we can talk about how we can tackle it with men, but I want to know your guys' take on this. We take a certain size. We have an oracle here. What?
We have an oracle.
Were you just gonna ask her size?
No.
No. Give me like a size of clothing that would be probably for women in the obesity category. That way you say it and not me.
Morbidly obese.
Yeah, give me. No,
but like a
number,
size.
like the number,
Like a
size
dress
14
size.
or something.
Size 14. The oracle is consulting.
Having no clue about female sizes.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. I have no clue about female sizes, so we'll just say size 14. That could be really small. I don't know. But let's just, in your head, imagine whatever size is like big. Okay, size 14. Is that big or small?
I don't know. I have no idea. My pants are 32.
I'm an 8.
You're an 8?
I'm a 6.
Okay.
So
you're a 16, you said?
6.
Oh.
18. Size 18.
So size 18.
Fine, whatever, something like that. Size 18. So you make that size and you say stores, it's now illegal for stores to sell a size bigger than that. And anyone who exceeds that size, so we're talking about we ban imports of clothing that exceed that size. So
it sounds like something China would do.
It is totally illegal to sell them in any retail. Not only that, it would be illegal to buy materials for the purpose of making clothes of that size. So
that gets around a lot of things. Yeah.
So you cannot wear in clothes that exceed size 18 or whatever.
Yeah. This is just for the women thing. We're not going to talk about like for a guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is.
However,
he's
you
covering it
will
for
be
women.
issued. Anyone who exceeds that size will be issued a state-given potato sack. So if you,
That's a lot of potatoes.
right. If you,
Well, I'm just saying. Like,
so that way when you're
it's like
out and about,
6 potato
if
sacks.
you exceed that size 18, then you have to wear a potato sack.
Yeah.
And that would encourage
So-
people to get under that so that they could buy clothes. And if you exceed that, you have to wear a potato sack. And that would kind of encourage people to go out and maybe make healthier habits so that they aren't,
Potato sack people.
Yeah, potato sack people. What do you think?
Well, the PSPs, as we call them.
Potato sack people.
Don't.
Instead of morbidly obese, they're just PSPs.
Like the PlayStation Personal. I had a PSP.
Nice.
It was cool because it had tiny discs.
Wasn't it PlayStation Portable?
I'm just thinking this, like, you think about Levi, like, it would never work with someone like him because he'd be like, sweet, potato sack, right?
Yeah.
He'd
why
go
it's a
around
female
like, you like this
solution.
guy?
That's why it's a female solution.
Yeah, so, like, I think women are a little bit more fashion-oriented and would hate to be seen in a potato sack.
I think most men would not like to
if
be
we actually
seen.
go back to Depression era, we saw a lot of people not being able to afford dresses for their daughters, so they started using potato sacks. And then the potato companies actually started making their sacks with flower embroidered, like not embroidered, but like patterns. And more brightly colored and differently colored and like
Yeah,
with
but these would
actual
be
patterns.
state.
No,
given, and they would
yeah.
not be-
I'm just
These aren't
saying,
repurposed
I'm-
potato
I'm
sacks. These are
saying-
potato sacks with 2 leg holes.
It would be like
Orange, like a
highlight,
prison jumpsuit.
highlight yellow.
I'm just saying that it is not it's not like an absurd precedent to have women wearing
Right.
potato
It would
sacks.
take some cultural conditioning, though, right, to get to that point.
It'd be highlight yellow with a picture of Danny DeVito with his shirt off on.
Okay, so
nice.
those.
Dude, that's
The
that's
great
good
thing, what
looking.
you've done, Matt, is you have. Well, no, you've ruined it. But the potato sack, just ugly, bland potato sack, is a great thing to choose because there are going to be a lot of men too. So it's pretty gender neutral. Like this works for both. There's going to be a lot of men that also don't want to wear that. Now,
all right.
the highlight yellow with Danny DeVito, you've all of a sudden.
Danny, that was a joke. Okay.
No, I know, but if you do use that, you've all of a sudden switched it. A lot of men are going to want to wear that because that's hilarious.
I'm gonna file that I
women
am
aren't.
obese.
But I think what's the question here? From a Christian standpoint, should we be okay?
I
should
don't
we
think it's from a
advocate for
Christian
this?
standpoint. I think it's from just an all-around
Well,
wise
I mean, you
standpoint.
think about it from any standpoint.
Like,
but-
do I think it would work?
From
Probably.
a feminist
Okay.
standpoint,
And now, as a Christian, and maybe it's going to your legislature, and or no, it's going to a public vote. And so you get to, on the next round of voting, measure number 47, the potato sack people vote.
Yeah, the PSP vote. Am I
PSP.
voting in favor of it?
Yeah.
No.
Now, why not?
Because we need to let people hurt themselves sometimes. Right?
Let hurt people hurt people.
Let
No.
people make their own mistakes. That's
Yes.
a great idea.
Well, no, we need to, like, let people...
I was laying you up, pal. That was a pass.
What is the verse?
No.
Give them over to hell.
Give them
Satan.
over to hell.
No,
I'm giving you over to hell.
No, but
give,
like
give
let
them over to Satan for the
so that
destruction of
the
their
destruction
flesh.
of their flesh. Yeah,
so,
so
they
like
can say their soul. Okay.
you know, like within the same
I
logic
would
of
say
that.
making them
But
wear potato sacks
in
is
making
like
them
throwing
wear
them
their-
You're not giving them
is-
to the destruction of their flesh. You
I don't know,
are.
that's pretty tough.
I mean, you're gonna get like ridiculed and destroyed socially.
Was it right the way that people in biblical times treated lepers?
I mean,
Would you want
to a
them in
sense,
your
I mean,
homes?
literally, the Old Testament taught about the habits that you had to have as a leper, so that other people would not catch it.
Right, but I mean, okay, so like the cultural
You had to
like
rip your clothes, you had to mess up your hair, and you had to yell unclean when you were going, so people knew. I mean, think about it. You have a contagious disease, and it's like, well, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to touch you.
I'm gonna
And it's
ignore that, and
wow,
I'm not
now
gonna wear my potato sack.
Now my
Maybe
hands and
equating
fingers are
lepers
falling
to more
off.
obese
You're
people
saying-
is not the best.
I was just saying from a cultural standpoint, like not how lepers are to act, how people treat them, right? Because like how they treat them, just like, you know, beating them, abusing them, like that sort of thing.
Well,
or
no, you would beat them like
with a stick, so you
I mean,
don't
you
catch
can
it.
away from
quarantine people and still.
Yes, but you don't treat them horribly.
Okay, so we
Right.
horribly
you
treat
can
and
help
quarantine the
people.
obese.
You
Say,
can
look,
be-
I
you
love
can be
you, and I
objective.
need you to wear this potato sack because it's a way to encourage
But
you
you're
to change
adding
your
something.
life.
You're not saying, "Hey, I love you, and I want you to act this way, and I'm going to teach you how to act this way. I'm going to put, you know." You're saying,
I discipline my son because I love him.
And you're adding the pain into his life so that he will reform. I get it.
Sometimes
and
yes.
we think that the government should do that, right?
To some degree.
To some degree,
I think the government should discipline its people.
they should discipline people, right? There's punitive action is important,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I say punitive action because it's not about disciplining a person.
Yeah.
It's
It's
about,
about disciplining society.
by punishing a person.
You see, we live in a society.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim, quote that. Yeah.
We live in a society.
But you want to do that with fat people. You want to.
I would
You
never,
want to make
I would call them.
PSP.
PSP.
I would,
Hey, I can say fat people. I've been fat most of my life.
I can say
I've
fat
just-
you
people.
look really good, by the way.
I don't care.
That's the truth.
I can say fat people. I don't care.
I don't. I can say it. I have the fat card, as they say, a PSP.
The fat card, a PSP.
You have a card too. I'll tell you after.
Dude, yeah.
We can talk about those hats. for
Well,
the
it
other
involves the
people.
mustache. The mustache is a big player in what card.
I
you
went
have.
bigger on the mustache actually recently. Can you see?
I did. Yeah, I
I've
liked
noticed.
it.
No, yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah, yeah.
I've realized lately that the scruff with the mustache thing
Looks good.
it looks good. I liked it when I had it.
Did she not?
But certain
My wife-
oracles-
My wife.
The Oracle.
Certain
My
oracles.
wife's not a fan either. I don't
I
know what it
like
is.
Your wife
I
likes
like
a beard?
She likes a beard, but I did this, and she's
Dude,
like, "I
that's
guess it's okay because you left a scruff," but you could tell that she would prefer it be of equal.
That's so
See,
odd.
I like the scruff and then the more distinct mustache because
do I like it
because
better.
it's the best of both worlds. The mustache without the scruff, it has some connotations, and also
What? What? Oh yeah, like Van. Yeah.
yes,
Vanity?
and then
Van,
the
driving a white
scruff,
van,
just
white
scruff
van,
for
mustache
scruff's sake.
van.
Where a scruff is weakest is on the upper lip. Like if you have scruff on your face, it's kind of passable here, but sometimes scruff just doesn't look good here, right? Because the
Very
hair,
rarely.
instead of laying down, it's kind of like shooting out.
Yeah, sometimes.
So the great thing about this look is it's kind of distinguished here, but it's scruffy here. I just think it's great.
Thank you.
I liked it when I had it.
I think it looks good.
I think it looks good.
Yeah,
I think you've got a nice little.
I'm kind of
going.
doing it again. Like
Yeah.
I'm almost there. What I did most recently was just shave everything to be about the same length, and then I just shaved this. I just like did this a little longer, but so it's not
See,
quite as
I
distinct.
just cut above the lip
Yeah.
and then I trimmed here, but didn't trim the mustache.
You know, you have a real hard line between your upper lip and your mustache, and I've always noticed that.
hard line between my upper, like right here.
Like
Because you trim it.
you trim it, but you trim a hard line. Like I
Is there
let
a way
mine
not
kind
to?
of
Because then otherwise, it's like in my mouth.
I don't think there's a hard line. I think what you just have.
it's the
is
way your
thicker
hair grows. Yeah, it's the way your hair
Well,
grows.
I can't do what you can because my hair. I don't have the coverage. If I did that,
Yeah. Mine has to
it'd
hang
look
down.
silly.
Mine has to
It'd look a lot
yeah.
more silly.
It looks silly.
Well, Jude and I grew a mustache the same way. Like mine has to hang down for it to have.
Right. I've got two little tarantula
You don't.
fangs, and then
Yeah.
they kind of go to the
Mine will then
side.
just go. It'll literally curl into my mouth.
Well, mine will
Yeah,
do that
mine,
eventually
mine
too.
I mean, mine curls in.
Mine, it's an awkward balance because mine will start to curl into my mouth. So I have to like literally, I take my razor, the electrical razor thing, and I'm holding it, and I'm just zzz, 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 and it's like floating in midair because I'm trying to where it's curling, hopefully get it right at this.
No, yeah,
flush point of my
that's
lip.
what I do.
That's
Well,
what
I
a lot
used
of
to have
people
it
do.
curl so much that I actually I
was
didn't
in
have
your
to
throat?
brush my
Teeth.
front teeth because
You just-
Yeah.
I just go like that.
How do you shave the hair on the inside of your lip?
Sorry?
On the under your lips.
Like
I
inside
use
your
a
mouth.
straight razor for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
And under my tongue, I just let that grow.
So I pull it from
potato
the
sack to
inside.
this?
Don't know. Because I said I can play the fat card, and we said Jude could play a card involving his mustache.
That's right.
Oh no, it wasn't a mustache, but yeah.
So I can say that, but I guess I won't. PSPs, I just don't think that we should treat people that way. That's it. We're othering them. We're scarlet lettering them.
I don't think we should try to better people.
But we
no
do
matter
that
what
with
the
like
man-
sex offender lists.
fuchsia.
You're right, because they've
Should
done
we not
something.
have those?
Well, no,
Well-
we've done that because those people have hurt people.
Hurt people, hurt people.
Those
Yeah, but
people
are you
have
not
committed
a person
a crime.
such that you can hurt yourself?
The destruction of their own flesh, dude.
Perhaps you have that freedom.
No, they're turning you over to Satan for the destruction.
I know, but
Not
I'm just
the
saying
destruction.
along
You-
the same lines, logical lines, like people.
Okay, so then you are for heroin.
No.
you are.
Yes.
Boy,
The
you're
reason
not
I
fair.
love these, especially in school, is because what you present
yeah.
is a computer.
I present
And
computer.
the computer hardboard that these people need to work on, that's the argument. Now, the argument only has screws that are size 3. So you need to really articulate your arguments and go, well, I don't think we should treat people like that in this case because.
Yeah.
But the only screwdriver you're coming to the argument with is a hammer. And so we're like, well, you want me to fix this computer for you? Let me unscrew right here. And you go, why aren't you fixing it with the hammer?
I don't get the analogy.
You are
It's funny.
only thinking broadly and without nuance.
But you're asking a
But it's
question.
an
No, no,
argument that
because
requires
his
nuance.
reason was broad, and so I took his reason, and since he broadly used it, I broadly applied it.
Well,
That's
maybe you
right.
need to come with. Well,
You're
you'll-
right.
But you will only, regardless of this situation,
Yeah, it's still
approach with broad reasoning.
Of course, but that's because I.
Well, of course I
Well,
would do
It's
that.
because I want him to articulate a consistent worldview. If he's saying we should let people hurt themselves, but
Well-
he therefore says, but not in the case of any drugs that only affect that person, such as heroin or methamphetamines. Or
No, I
other
think that we
hardcore
shouldn't
drugs.
let those things happen either. But I think to remain consistent, logically consistent with how we deal with that as a society is that we punish the people that sell and transport said drugs.
So then we should let the people who
We should just capitalize on it
Take
and
it.
democratize it.
No,
Yes.
I don't think we
Yes.
should allow it at all. Is what I'm saying. But for the people that think,
But then
the
you
people
are
that
not
think
that
that we should
people get to
liberalize it.
affect their own lives.
No, I'm saying that I know I don't believe that in every case, and I think it's okay to not believe
I thought
things
you were a
broadly.
libertarian.
I
if you
am
don't
not,
agree with
Jude.
me, then you are an antichrist.
Listen, I don't think it's wrong to believe something in one area and to believe otherwise in another area.
I think it is.
You don't
it is
believe in having
inconsistent
conviction.
If the reasons you give for one cannot be meaningfully applied to other cases unless you're making a clear distinction.
Right.
So what
That's
is
why I'm
the
saying you
clear
have to-
distinction?
What is the clear distinction?
Yeah, because heart disease is what? Is it still the number one cause of death?
Ages,
Yeah, at
whatever,
least
the
one
heart
of them.
disease is the
So-
age killed her for.
So obesity is dangerous.
So, like, how do we criminalize obesity then?
Well, how do we
logically?
criminalize?
How do you logically criminalize obesity, Matt?
Because you're affecting
State
yourself in
enforced
such a way that
Oh.
you affect others
Oh.
by consuming more resources.
How do you logically criminalize obesity?
I gave you an
Listen.
example. The prompt is an example.
Jerry, do you think
logically
that
criminalize?
Yeah, that's why.
do you think that abusing welfare should be criminally charged? Like if you are caught abusing welfare, money that is meant to go to other people, resources that are meant to go to
You're
other
stealing,
people.
sure.
by being morbidly obese, you are consciously using up more resources. You are making more people pay tax dollars for you.
Fine, let's put him in jail.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted you to be consistent.
Wait, I agree with you. I don't just say like people generally speaking should, be able to
hurt themselves.
And
they should
No,
be.
I'm not saying
you know
people
what
should
I
be
do
allowed
say?
to hurt themselves.
I say what you
I'm
said.
saying people have the ability to, right? And I'm
People
just
have
saying
the response.
they have responsibility for themselves, right? I just don't think that we should other people. I don't think it's wise to other people. And
You have to.
That's how you get revolutions.
Okay. I just think that
No, it's happen against you if you other people.
if you other people, sure.
Then you have the fat people revolution.
Well,
I would say
we are running out of time on the.
Okay, this is the distinction I make. I actually think that people ought to be able to make bad decisions. I
agree.
don't think that the government per se has to be regulating morality, especially Christian morality.
Like they shouldn't be trying to keep people from making bad decisions, but they should be disciplining.
For instance, I don't think that the government should necessarily say, committing adultery is illegal now. Like you can't. But I believe it's wrong. But I don't necessarily think that the government, any more than I think that the government should frankly be involved in regulating human relationships.
I was going to say, so like gay marriage?
I just don't think that the government should be involved in marriage at all.
Yeah, I agree.
I think they can be involved in upholding contract, like if two people want to make a contract and contract law. But like marriage, that for me, if the government came and said, by the way, we never filed your marriage certificate, you're not married, I'll be like, yes,
I've been living in sin. Oh,
no,
I've been living in sin.
Because what I did was before the sight of God. My marriage is
I agree
explicitly
wholeheartedly.
and solely religious.
Yeah.
It is. There's no secular aspects of
I
my
think
marriage.
for I couldn't care less about
right
how Oregon sees it.
So,
It's about.
but that aside,
The Oracle.
what I see is, does this behavior disproportionately affect other people? And when you look at, for instance, like drinking, we say it's okay. Drinking and driving, we say it's not. Why? Because it disproportionately affects other people. In the case of drugs, the fact is that people who are under the influence of drugs disproportionately affect other people in negative ways. And so it's easy to make a distinction. Now, the question is, does you being obese disproportionately affect the lives of other people? Maybe if there were a shortage on food in the United States, but frankly, there's not. So I think it's wrong to be addicted to food in the same way that it's wrong to be addicted to a lot of things. And I think people have all kinds of different struggles, right? And so addictions range from all kinds of things. And I do think that people ought to be able to make that mistake, that they should be able to do that, even though I do think it's wrong to be addicted to food in that way. But since it doesn't disproportionately affect other people.
The government shouldn't step in and then punish it.
Right, because it doesn't, like I said, it really, by and large, only affects that person to the degree that, like, it affects other people to the degree that if that person dies or is largely immobile, they can't participate maybe meaningfully in other people's lives. But that's not in the same way it's like,
why is that in the purview of government anyway?
Right. You're not endangering the lives of other people by virtue of being
not
obese.
involved.
But the factors for obesity, it's clearly there is something different in the culture or something about with obesity with America versus, like, let's say Japan.
Yeah,
because
that probably
obesity
has to
rates
do probably with our diets, probably
Yes.
too, our habits in that way. But.
So is there a way of the government, because clearly having like high fructose corn syrup like literally everything in insanely high amounts in all of our foods is not healthy, right?
Right.
And it's
in our cheaper foods.
And becoming obese is really bad for you. So the people that are pushing on the obesity into people, now it's not necessarily that they're not making the choice. Is there some government like overview of that? that is morally right to do.
So remember, one of the largest subsidies is corn. And
Yeah.
so it's exceptionally cheap to make high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
And our cheapest foods that are available usually have things that are really unhealthy for you. So if you want to go and get healthy food, you pay a premium. And if you want to get unhealthy food, it's cheaper. And so honestly, a lot of the time, this is not like a streamline, but if you look at it, a disproportionate amount of people who are obese are also impoverished. And so unfortunately, like the saying is like, you don't make enough money to eat healthy. That's terrible. It's tragic. So maybe how do we make food more affordable that is actually healthy? And I don't know. I don't have answers for that.
Well,
I'm sure there
even
are
as somebody
answers,
who
but-
like, I don't necessarily I haven't necessarily had the money to eat super healthy either. So something I did for losing weight was just, even if I wasn't eating healthy, I was just eating less.
Right.
So that all I did was just count calories and drink a lot.
Yeah,
of
and I don't
water.
want to absolve responsibility from people to
Yeah.
make
No,
healthier choices.
no,
but
and that's
it's hard. It is harder though.
But
I think China is a good example of the cultural side of it.
Yeah.
Because from birth to death, it is. I mean, it's so different in the way that they handle physical activity, how necessary that is, how necessary it is to have hobbies and sports and friends to do those things with. Like just the whole orientation of that. Also, because all the schools are state schools, but there's an entirely different culture, like from start to finish, about your physical body and how it is governed.
Well, before we got to wrap this up. Let's do something we forgot to do in the last one. Let's vote on it. A PSP amendment or whatever you said earlier. A vote for the PSP initiative. Yay! All those in favor?
Can't do it.
You guys are just too afraid.
what was the question of that?
Should we
should the
sign a
government,
law?
or maybe is it okay for the government to make a law that requires people over a certain size to wear potato sacks?
Because I thought that it was
Bring your mic.
how effective that would be.
No, it was. Should we allow?
Should we
the
allow?
government-
Should we allow people?
Would you vote yes on that coming through the ballot?
Should we allow the enforcement of
Yeah. So he's
state-issued
saying,
potato
here's the
sacks?
question. On the ballot, yes or no, what are you voting for the PSP initiative?
Measure 114? Completely random. Measure.
All those in favor? All those not in favor?
Is it still just women?
He was using them as an example.
That will affect my vote.
No, it's men and women. It's just obese people.
Okay.
You're in favor?
No.
Oh.
Yeah,
But if it's just women,
I'm going to have to
I'm not
write
in
no
favor.
on it. If it's just women, then I do not have to
I
disclose
told you
my
mine
vote.
was stupid, but
don't have to
It was better than mine.
Fun for discussion.
I think we have to
good.
wrap it up because this is going to be an absolute chore to edit, and that's fine. But also,
my
this
goodness.
at any moment that camera is going to beep beep
is
beep,
gonna
and die.
and then we're gonna lose
So,
all visual.
You're going to lose all this.
And you
Before
can't
we
see
go,
this.
we should thank you for joining us for another entire season. I think we really didn't talk a whole lot
Yeah,
about
we
the
didn't
fact
say
that
that.
this
This
is
is
the
the-
finale
this
of
is the
season
finale.
3. It's been
I think we should perform the song for them.
well. Hang on, it's been should we?
Yeah.
All right, it's been an absolute blast getting to do this, and we're excited to do more. It's going to be better in the future. But we're glad you joined us for this extra special, super long episode of the synopsis, or whatever it's called, the Septuagint Symposium. Meticles,
Matitecles or something?
Matitecles, Judaherpes. What is it?
It's Juherpes.
Juherpes.
Judeherpes.
Juherpeles, maybe.
Juherpeles?
Juherpeles.
Juherpes.
Levithici.
Leviathicles.
Leviathicles.
And what was I? Jehoshaphat. Or something.
What? You're not even typing.
Jude, what are you doing?
I thought I had clicked it. It's hard. Just keep talking.
Yeah.
What was I? Jerissa? Jurassic.
Jurassic.
Jurassic
Jurassius.
Park never existed.
Pericles. Jurassic Pericles.
Jurassic Pericles.
Jurassic Pericles.
It's been fun. This has been interesting to do an episode like this. If you want us to do another episode like this, where we have the, what is it called again? Synopsis.
Symposium.
Symposium. I think we'll probably do it with your questions. Curate some questions way better than us just trying to come up with random stuff. So I'll maybe start a thread in the Discord called Future Symposium Questions. Put them in there. Jude is going to.
Do we want to sing the song?
Well, Matt thinks we should. Meticules thinks we should. So
then Matt Tickleys can start us off with the first verse.
Okay, I mean,
Jude, cue up the music.
I can't hear the music.
No, none of us can. But you know it by heart.
Right.
You know it by heart.
Sing to an ad.
There's no ads. This is our music.
You know it by heart. You love them.
And I know the music that's playing right now, so
You
this
do?
will fit right with it.
You will.
Do you want me to throw you the head? No, you don't need the
No,
headphones.
I don't know.
You know the music.
Yeah.
You wrote it.
Yeah. Hold on.
Hang on.
Oh, and he just ends the music.
And go.
All right. Thank you for this special time where this song has a special rhyme. We know that Jude committed a crime, but don't let it get to you.
Have
a great time.
Nailed it, yeah.
We used time
good.
3 times.
That was good. It was really good rhyming, and that was the verse.
Yeah.
We use crime as well.
Crime with time.
Crime and time.
Dance and electronic. That are the
The music
Dude,
Jude
there's
said
no
was
way
bad.
that fits with this.
No. Well, we added,
we made a song without.
Okay. I actually wasn't expecting you guys to sing with me. I was gonna sing, and then you do the next line.
Oh, I didn't know
We
where
should have
we
known.
were
'Cause
going.
this was a
Well, we
song.
practiced
We
it.
practiced this.
I think we just switched it up on you.
We
sorry.
did it.
Right.
We did it a lot.
Thank you guys for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. We love you very much.
Roll the outro.
I end the program by saying, you've made this day a special day by just your being you. There's no person in the whole world like you, and I like you just the way you are.